Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we went through SCP 1201 to 1220. I considered going further than that, but it was my birthday and I decided to not do that to myself. So, in this one, we're going to be starting with Unidentified Bus, and we're going to be making our way towards, I believe, the Mixed Up Pet Shop, which already sounds... Oh god, the one after that is Living with Werewolves. But, we're not there yet. What's the deal with that bus? What's the deal with airline food? So, the bus is safe, but it also has this at the bottom, so I feel like it's lies. SCP-1221 is a non-hazardous and contained in an anomalous vehicle containment bay, which says Reach S Blueprint folder, at site somewhere. Cleaning and maintenance is to be performed monthly. Personnel are only permitted to enter SCP-1221 for these purposes, and entrance is restricted to disposable dudes. By O5 level directive, all use and testing of it has been suspended indefinitely. See, that doesn't sound safe. That really does not sound safe. It's also not even a bus, it's a Mercedes. Okay, it's a bus, I'm sorry, let me read it for realsies. The SCP-1221 is a Mercedes-Benz 405 single-decker bus manufactured at the company's Mannheim plant in 1989. I didn't know Mercedes-Benz made buses, I just saw Mercedes-Benz and immediately assumed it was a sports car. It was purchased by the Blank Transit Authority and had an uneventful 10-year career. Upon its retirement, 1221 was acquired by the Foundation staff for transport of SCPs, or exposure to SCP incidents does not appear to have occurred. The operation of 1221 is identical in all respects to a standard bus of its model. It attained SCP classification approximately 1 year after its acquisition, when medical staff noted a statistically significant increase in seizures at sites somewhere, which were traced back to users of the vehicle. 90% of subjects who enter it experience no, I used to say visible, but now it just says no effects. The remaining 10% are observed to develop a mild absent seizure disorder anywhere from hours to years after exposure. This is similar to typical absent seizure disorders, involving some seconds of loss of consciousness and blank staring without movement and showing characteristics of patterns on EEG. Atypically, subjects commonly experience auras of deja vu or jamais vu, which are normally associated with other seizure types. Let's see. Deja vu. I've been in this place before. Feelings of familiarity with unfamiliar situations, or jamais vu, which is feelings of unfamiliarity with familiar situations. Subjects retain no memories of the absences other than the occasional vague description of an out-of-body experience. The disorder caused by 1221 is in many respects more benign than otherwise. Seizures are fairly rare, usually occurring yearly, although weekly seizures have been observed, and are invariably controlled with appropriate anticonvulsant medication. Many subjects may be weaned off anticonvulsants after prolonged treatment. A small number, less than 10% of affected subjects are observed to vocalize during seizures. As no memory of the events are retained, consciousness appears to remain impaired, inconsistent with the presentation of typical absent seizures. Generalized EEG discharges are still observed. The vocalizations have a common theme of data expunged. And then there's an interview log that requires level 4 clearance. Dr. R was skeptical of 1221's extra-normal properties and volunteered to test its effects, dumbass. He entered 1221 without incident and was interviewed 2 weeks after exposure by Dr. Major. An abridged transcript of the interview follows. Morning, R. How are you feeling today? Same as always. No hallucinations, no blackouts, no seizures. Got up, had breakfast, did some reports, and came in here. Okay. No change this week, but it sometimes takes a while to set in. Had any strange memory issues lately? Nothing's going to happen, and you'll say I'm part of the 90% who aren't affected. Memory's bad as ever. 12 minutes and 32 seconds later. Doesn't look like I'll get anything from you today. Time for a coffee? Dr. R stares blankly and is unresponsive for a total of 13 seconds. Dr. Major is aware Dr. R is unresponsive for 6 seconds and makes a note. After 13 seconds, their face contorts violently, startling Dr. Major. R is now conscious, but visibly fearful and agitated. R, are you? Major? Jesus, they were right. They were all right about it. 1221. I can see him. It's not me. Him? Where do you? It's somebody else. I'm not here. I just watched. You have to help me, Major. Help me. Help! Face violently contorts for a second time and returns to normal after 3 seconds. R's mood has returned to its original state. The time is now 14 minutes 44 seconds. I'm sorry. I must have drifted off for a moment. What the hell was that? Was what? Dr. R appears to have no memory of the episode despite repeated questioning. Video recording of the episode is shown to Dr. R. Okay, Major, you got me there. I guess 1221 does cause the little seizures after all. Egg on my face, huh? You don't have any comments on what you said during the episode. No idea what it means. Looks like I just went a little loopy. Can I get going? This took ages and now I have to get medical to fix this up. Don't want to scare you again. Okay, R, we'll continue this later. Dr. R exits the interview room. CCTV cameras in outside corridor appear to show him mutter, "Nice try." Okay, additional comments. Based on this report, I have attached a request for increased surveillance of 1221 subjects. Accelerated research, cross SCP with SCP redacted, may be necessary to obtain results and a Euclid reclassification. Request denied. Evidence that SCP-1221 has a major effect on subjects is lacking, and barring the treatable seizure disorder, subjects have universally normal appearance and behavior. It is the opinion of this office that no beneficial data would be gained from further research. Redacted civilians and blank 100 Foundation personnel, including Redacted, have been exposed to 1221, all of whom have essentially normal function. Information may pose a containment risk and have negative effects on employee morale. SCP-1221 and affected subjects are presently secure, contained, and protected. Until the situation changes, testing is unnecessary and has been suspended. From my brief time with the O5 committee, whatever their title was from various tales, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I do remember there was an amount of the O5 committee that were jackasses, and I feel like this particular O5 person is one of those. Because they only really redact the ones that are jackasses. The ones that are good people don't typically get redacted. Like 0514, I feel like 0514 was one of the good ones. But I could be remembering that wrong. Anyway, stasis box. Which is also... A lot of the 1200s are coming up safe, and I gotta say it feels like bullshit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. SCP-1222 is to be locked in a 60 centimeter cubed hard plastic container with foam inner lining to hold it in its place. Container can be found inside locker somewhere in the storage area of Site 4. If the container is damaged in any way, contact administration for replacement. Personnel with level 1 clearance or higher may access the object for research purposes. If you can access it when you're with level 1 clearance, why is the locker number redacted? If not used for testing, linseed oil must be rubbed onto 1222 for preservation purposes once annually. Linseed oil must also be used after all research tests. Description: SCP-1222 is a bamboo box, decorated with beads and shells and measuring 7 by 10 by 10 centimeters. A lid is attached and held together by a woven thread made of palm fronds. Any human who touches the box with both hands and gazes at its bottom will instantly enter a state of stasis, in which they cannot be repositioned or harmed by any means known to the Foundation. Any human in this condition is to be classified as SCP-1222-1. This stasis will continue until one is touched by the skin of a live human. One has no vital signs, respiration, blood pressure, brain activity, and can remain in this condition indefinitely. Removing 1222 from one's hands or blocking it from their view does not affect the stasis. However, only one instance of one exists at a time. Attempts to successively or simultaneously create multiple instances have failed. Examination of one through latex gloves has revealed that one's flesh is hard and unyielding. Researchers have described the flesh as being like stone or metal. One's clothing is unaffected by the stasis and can be damaged normally. However, hair becomes intensely tough and durable. Test log 1. T12. Procedure: head struck with a metal rod 32 times. No damage to one, rod is warped. Next test: they were shot with a revolver. The bullet compressed against the right earlobe and they fell over. Fired with an AR-10 rifle using 7.62 by 51 NATO rounds. Bullet shattered against their right shoulder, fell over. Swiped at with a 30 centimeter kitchen knife. Knife bounced off. Stabbed with a knife. Knife broke. Fluoroantimonic acid poured onto back. Acid seeped off the subject and into the glass container beneath. Partially submerged in fluoroantimonic acid. Subject was asked to hold 1222 above the head while entering stasis. Subject was lowered into a glass container 2 meters tall with 1 meter filled with the acid. Test was conducted with safety measure to ensure no damage to 1222 would occur. After 2 weeks of no reported changes, subject was removed, cleaned, and reawakened. Subject subsequently died due to accumulation of acid in pores and skin and lower cavities. Yikes. Procedure: petrol ignited. A small quantity of petrol was poured over the subject's lower back and set alight. The area became scorched black with residue, but no visible damage was shown. Note: no further tests involving substances that could harm the box will be used unless under strict supervision of a safety team and Class 3 personnel. This is only to prevent damage to the box and is not a personal attack on any researcher. Procedure: a slap. Both a gloved and ungloved slap were given to the test subject. The gloved slap had no effect and managed to topple over the test subject. The ungloved slap immediately awoke the test subject, who shrieked in surprise. When they were asked to describe the feeling of the slapping, he replied, like putting your hand through paper and immediately hitting flesh. Whatever that means. Recovery log. SCP-1222 was found in somewhere, a village of Nias Island, located off the coast from the Sumatra region of Indonesia on November 18th, 1984. We got a whole real date, dang. A rescue team dispatched in the area discovered a dugout chamber beneath debris of a destroyed home. In the middle of the chamber was a Caucasian woman kneeling on the floor with the item in her hands. Report excerpt blank 1984. Is it not November 18th anymore? Why did you say the exact date that it was found and then... Anyway. We were relieved at first to find a survivor under all the rubble. A single mother had lived there with 2 children and an infant, and all 4 had perished when their home fell. A neighbor had reported that the mother was always talking about a disabled cousin she cared for, and was worried for the cousin's safety. After inspecting and moving the rubble, we found a hole in the corner of where the sleeping area would have been. The hole went down 2 meters before turning towards an entrance of a small chamber. The man who volunteered to go down called out that he had found a woman in prayer and that she was in shock. He then went to pick her up and take her out when the woman started screaming. When he emerged with her, she was thrashing about and speaking in a language we didn't recognize. She was without a scratch on her body, but her clothes were old and falling apart, and a thick layer of dust covered all parts. The woman calmed down after we constrained her, and she was sent to an emergency medical center set up nearby. Light amnestics were given to all members of the rescue team after receiving the report. The subject's name is something, born June 4th, 18-something. Agents acquired her at the emergency medical center where she was transported to Site 4. The only item with her was 1222. Subject spoke fluent Dutch that was standard for the 1800s. When questioned about 1222, she went into detail about finding it in a village not far from where she was found after her father had data expunged, retrieved it from the ashes. Subject was commissioned to D-Class personnel at Site 3. Rude! Future tests are scheduled for use of radiation, destructive bacteria, nanomachines, and SCPs blank, 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 and blank. Various keter SCPs were also considered, but decided against due to the possibility of the damage or deconstruction of 1222. Sounds like there's a lot of SCPs you should use that on. Like, that one dude who you can't look at. Or look at any picture, or he'll come murder you all over the ground. And the walls, and the ceiling, and whatever other part of the room your body parts land on. Just look at a picture, and then wait for him. And right when he comes to get you, just thrust that in front of you, and then he grabs it, and he looks at it, and then he's just stuck. And then they just never have to worry about him again. Just drop him in the ocean with gloves, and he's just gone. And you can take the book away from things, but then you can't make new ones. So they'd only be able to use it on one really bad SCP. And the lizard doesn't have hands. And he's also not really bothering anybody unless they bother him first. I feel like the lizard wouldn't give any kind of a crap about humanity if the Foundation didn't have him. Moving on. 1223 Photographic Memory. I sort of have that. It's not as useful as you'd think it would be, but this is probably not that. I wonder if this was related to that lady that can reach into pictures and just do things. SCP-1223 is to be stored in a standard containment crate in the on-site warehouse of site somewhere. Cell 1223 is to remain in an unpowered state when not undergoing approved testing. When undergoing testing requiring a powered state, it must be secured in a sealed testing area and monitored via video surveillance. While in a powered state, only disposable dudes may directly view it. Description: SCP-1223 is a digital photo frame manufactured by the Something Corporation. Physical examination while in an unpowered state revealed no components unusual for other models of its product line. It possesses a solid-state hard drive with a capacity of 512 megabytes and a 15 by 21 centimeter LCD display. What? Why does the digital photo frame have a solid-state hard drive in it? Or is it just so that it's not making the whirring noise of a normal hard drive? Probably that. Electronic analysis of the hard drive determined that the drive is not storing any photo data. And in a powered state, 1223 will display a blue menu screen when unobserved, standard for photo frames of its type, upon being directly observed by a living human being, hereby referred to as subject. However, 1223's LCD will alter to a flat black screen with the words "Hello" and large white text. Experimentation has shown that it must be within direct line of sight of an individual to activate. Remote monitoring does not trigger the effect. Within 6 seconds of observation, the screen will again change, this time displaying a person or object from the observer's view. The photo will be displayed until it is again directly observed by the subject. Once observed, the photo will again change after 6 seconds, displaying another event from the subject's life. 1223 has displayed a tendency to display photos of close individuals, objects, or places that the subject displays a strong affection for. Once observed for several iterations of photos, 1223 will begin displaying plain text captions over the displayed images. Captions are typically descriptive in nature and written from the perspective of an outside observer addressing the subject. Recorded captions include, "Your mom sure loved her gift." Displayed image, an elderly woman opening a birthday present. "What a proud papa." Displayed image, a young man holding a newborn baby girl. "He'll always have your back." 2 soldiers posing for a photo atop a burned Iraqi tank. "This was the best night of your life." A bride and groom exchanging vows. Upon observing a photo from their life, the subject will begin to develop symptoms of retrograde amnesia. Subjects will have difficulty remembering the events pictured in the photo, and will react with confusion if provided evidence of them. Repeated viewing of photographs displayed by 1223 will result in the subject losing all memory of the person, place, or object that was featured in the photos. The exact number of displayed images required before total loss of memory of the person, place, or objects varies between subjects. In one case, D58134 was able to vaguely recall his childhood best friend until the 35th sequential photo. In another, 67312 was unable to recall any information about his mother after 7 photos featuring her. Excerpt from Experiment Log 57. Okay, so 67394 is told that 1223 will display photos from his life using an experimental device monitoring his brain via electrodes. Subject is instructed to view each image and describe his feelings into the microphone to help calibrate the device. Upon activation, it shows something 100 consecutive photos of a young woman and 2 toddlers in various locations. Up until this point, 1223 had only displayed 6 consecutive photos of the same individual. Displayed image 16. The woman is seated in a recliner with both toddlers lying in her lap. All 3 are smiling at the camera. Caption, "Everyone's getting cozy with mommy." Oh man, I forgot about that chair. Redacted and Redacted used to love climbing all over everyone who sat there. Image 33. The woman is standing on the back porch of a trailer, wearing shorts and a tank top. Both children are wearing red and blue face paint and carrying sparklers. Dark bruises can be seen on the woman's thighs and upper arms. What an explosive Independence Day! I remember that 4th of July! Redacted didn't think the kids were old enough to play with sparklers yet. They loved them! Redacted got scared of hers and dropped it after it burnt too close to her hand, but she was a little daredevil. She stole her brother's 10 minutes later. Image 78. 2 children seated in a diner with a large cake in front of them. The children are wearing matching pink and blue hats with the number 4 written on them in glitter. The woman is kneeling between the 2 children's seat while they smear cake on her face. They thought mommy was the sweetest. Oh god. I nearly peed my pants when they did that. Redacted bent down to cut the cake, and the kids just grabbed handfuls and went at her with it. I couldn't believe how smart they were to pull that off at the same time like that. Image 126. A point of view shot inside a small living room of the woman being grabbed by the throat. She displays multiple severe bruises around her mouth, eyes, and forehead. One of the children is seen lying on the floor behind the woman, hiding his face. Caption, "You told that bitch to watch her mouth." What the fuck is that? Who the fuck did that to her? Hey, what the hell's with this thing? Why is it? Image 127. The woman is lying on the floor of the room pictured in 126. She displays massive facial trauma consistent with a close-range gunshot wound. She won't run that pretty mouth anymore. Oh, Jesus. I'm gonna be sick. Oh, are these fake? Where did you get this? Image 128. A second point of view shot. Both children are seen cowering in the corner. A shotgun barrel protruding from the bottom right corner of the image. Little pictures have big ears. Oh no. You made these up, right? Hey, where are Redacted? Hey, man, I'm talking to you. I want to know where the fuck my wife and kids are. Right now. Subject reacted violently at this point. Subject was restrained with lid locks and testing resumed. A repeat of image 16. Subject had not spoken for over blank images. Heh, cute kids. Who's she? End log. Closing statement. Subject was incarcerated for the first-degree murder of his wife and children. Recommend further testing using D-Class convicted of crimes against friends or loved ones to test potential sapience of 1223. Okay, so he was having happy memories about his life as he saw the pictures and then could not remember that he killed his whole family. Huh. Lil Chemist set. If that's not Dr. Wondertainment, it is. That means Dr. Wondertainment voice. All acquired instances of SCP-1224 must be contained in separate blast chambers in the hazardous materials wing of Site-37, with the exception of any acquired instruction booklets which should be scanned into the on-site secure database and subsequently destroyed. Description: SCP-1224 is a set of 17 instances of Dr. Wondertainment's Super Science Lil Chemist Kit, trademark. All kits are contained in metal boxes measuring 35 by 0.5 centimeters by 65 by 25.25 centimeters. The boxes are composed of a metallic alloy containing lead, aluminum, and iron. The hinged lid of each kit is fully covered with a unique photographic sticker displaying an ethnically diverse group of 2 to 4 children playing with the contents of the kit. In the lower right corner of each sticker is the following warning label. Dr. Wondertainment's Super Science kits are intended for children ages 7 to 12. Any experiments using Dr. Wondertainment's Super Science sets should only be performed with adult supervision. All instructions should be followed exactly for best results. SCP-1224 kits each contain a test tube rack, composed of the same alloy as the box, 5 test tubes and an Erlenmeyer flask, all made of borosilicate glass, a small heating element, a borosilicate glass stirring rod, a glass and rubber pipette, 50 brown opaque glass bottles with paper labels, and an instruction booklet. The bottles contain a wide variety of chemical compounds including hydrofluoric acid, sodium hydroxide, colloidal silver, liquid mercury, liquid quicksilver, small granules of uranium yellow cake, and several unknown compounds labeled super reagent, super catalyst, and super accelerator. SCP-1224 instruction booklets are 62 pages long and consist of 1 or 2 page instructions on how to conduct different experiments or create different substances or products. These range from simple compounds such as an oobleck or vinegar and baking soda mixtures to more complex and unusual products such as smoke bomb pellets capable of producing approximately 1 kilometer cubed of non-toxic purple smoke, glow-in-the-dark paint capable of emitting light at 5,000 lux, and vanishing cream capable of temporarily redirecting light around subjects it is applied to, rendering them invisible for up to 5 minutes before losing efficacy. All of the more complex products require some combination of the 3 unidentified compounds. Attempts to replicate the experiments without using these compounds result in inert substances. The back page of each booklet contains a reorder form for the chemical compounds. Reorder requests have been consistently filled within 4 to 6 weeks, although the supply mailing address does not exist. At the bottom of the reorder form is an advertisement to purchase Dr. Wondertainment's Super Science trademark Lil Physicist Kit, trademark Dr. Wondertainment's Super Science Lil Geologist Kit, Dr. Wondertainment's Super Science Lil Geneticist Kit, as well as an advertisement for a television program entitled Professor Abnormal Science Lab. Attempts to order these kits using the reorder form have consistently resulted in form letters stating that the kits are available in retail outlets only. What is the abnormal? That is SCP-2702. Alright, and now for the worst Christmas. Guess they didn't get the Little Chemist kit. The worst Christmas is safe. I have doubts. It used to say SCP-1225 was kept within its original packing, including styrofoam padding in an isolated room measuring 15 by 15 by 15 meters at Site-37. Doesn't say it anymore though. Now it says SCP-1225 is kept in a locked stainless steel box on a concrete pedestal that is protected from the elements and a 25 by 25 meter roofless containment area open to the air in at least a 180-degree arc. Unless part of an experiment, no sealed or closed containers are allowed within the containment area, including pockets in clothing and in-capsule pens. Personnel should spend no more than 60 minutes per 24-hour period within the containment area. Alright. Description: SCP-1225 is a spindle-shaped glass ornament with a small loop at the top allowing it to be hung from a hook. When hung on a tree, bush, or other woody plant, it initiates a process of accelerated decay and aging in any closed containers within 4 meters of it. The contents of these containers will change so as to reflect the signs of typical wear and tear that the object would acquire over the course of several years. Textiles, clothing, and stuffed plush items become faded and threadbare, often with ripped seams and missing or broken fasteners. Solid-state metal, plastic, or glass objects will display chips, cracks, scratches, and heavy corrosion similar to acid burns. Electronics display both hardware and software problems sufficient to cause fatal shutdowns within a few minutes of use. Foodstuffs will become stale and moldy. or moldy. Living organisms do not die, but display health problems consistent with age as well as extended malnourishment, neglect, or abuse. The decay process is rapid, with affected objects displaying approximately 1 year's worth of aging within the first 24 hours of exposure. However, the rate of decay slows over time and asymptotically approaches a maximum of approximately 10 years worth of aging over the course of 3 weeks. Addendum D. Study of 1225's pre-containment circumstances as well as the experimentation regarding the aging effects of long-term exposure to 1225 indicate that it has a secondary effect. Any individuals that spend more than 4 hours per 24-hour period within 10 to 12 meters of it begin to display increased levels of aggression, anger, and irritability, decreased patience and frustration tolerance, and exaggeration of negative or annoying personal traits such as overeating, alcohol consumption, snoring, and unpleasant body odor. This effect persists even when the affected individuals are no longer within range of 1225, but gradually fades over the course of 8 days. This increase in aggravating factors typically results in heightened levels of interpersonal conflict, most commonly expressed by severe verbal or physical fights. When more than one individual affected by 1225 interact with each other, the effects are much more severe and escalate much faster. In 27.5% of cases, this results in serious injuries or fatalities. Addendum H. Due to a statistically abnormal amount of equipment failure, structural decay, and interpersonal conflicts requiring administrative action at Site-37, more in-depth studies were performed on 1225. The current prevailing theory is that it still operates even when not placed on a plant, but much slower and less intensely. It appears to treat enclosed structures or buildings containing it as if they were containers placed beneath it, and will affect them as well. Whether or not the containing structure includes a roof, trellis, or other overhead cover appears to most strongly determine whether or not it will affect the structure. The acquisition of disposable personnel from SCP-784 is currently under consideration, due to the fact that these personnel are less prone to equipment failures caused by 1225. Further research is required in order to determine the exact nature of this effect. Containment protocols have been updated. What was this one again? A neighborhood in the town of somewhere, Texas. Is this the thing where they're not real? I don't know. I can scroll up and check. What the crap was 784? 784. Christmas cheer. Okay, so it looks like people from the town that's extremely happy Christmassy are not affected by the thing that... Ah, son of a bitch. By the thing that, Quiet Firefox. They're not really affected by the thing that does the craziness for Christmas. Sorry about all that. Yeah, so... I can't really edit out that happening because I was mid-sentence when it happened, but... Yeah, so... next up is gonna be postmodernism. I thought it said postmodern man at first, but I just read postmodernism and the family man at the same time. Okay, it's another safe one. Are there no Euclids in this episode? There's gotta be Euclids. We got 15 to go. SCP-1226 is to be hung on the wall of a standard containment chamber and access restricted to testing with personnel. 1226 may be safely observed remotely or piecemeal. Its anomalous properties manifest only when it is viewed in person and in its entirety. A 6 cm by 6 cm square of opaque black plastic has been positioned in the upper left corner of 1226 to be removed for testing purposes only. Testing purposes. Only disposable dudes are permitted to view it uncovered. Special security precautions are to be taken when exposing subjects to 1226, as post-exposure subjects exhibit heightened aggression, endurance, and physical strength. Post-exposure subjects are to be terminated at the conclusion of testing. Alrighty then. SCP-1226 is a large oil landscape painting measuring 2 by 4 meters. It depicts, in great detail, the detonation of a nuclear weapon above a large city. The skyline of the city depicted does not conform to that of any currently extant urban center. Photorealistic attention has been paid to every detail of the painting, from optically correct reflections on the thousands of glass shards depicted, to the accurate representation of the effects of atomic firestorm on the 3,129 human figures portrayed on the streets. It was originally displayed in a varnished oaken frame and accompanied by a freestanding informational plaque. Neither frame nor plaque have exhibited anomalous properties and may be viewed upon request. For full text of the plaque, see Addendum 2. Is that here? It is. When a subject views the whole of 1226 in person, it causes an immediate mental and physical change in the viewer. A significant increase in physical size and overall musculature is accompanied by a pronounced curvature of the spine, forcing a hunched simian posture. The skull is radically reshaped, the forehead sloping and jaw protruding. This results in a marked reduction of the total brain mass and an increase in cranial pressure, with a significant reduction in cerebral volume. These changes occur over the space of about 40 seconds and are evidently extremely painful. Post-exposure subjects exhibit a massive loss of mental capacity consistent with the reduction in brain mass. Subjects are capable only of rudimentary guttural vocalizations and simple gesturing by way of communication, and are only concerned with feeding, copulating, and other basic instinctual behaviors. Due to the intense pain and loss of mental function associated with transformation, subjects invariably enter a violent state of panic. Initial descriptions of affected subjects as cavemen have been proven inaccurate. Autopsies and paleontological analysis have revealed marked dissimilarities between known human ancestors and affected subjects. Currently favored theories propose that subjects are altered into either a hitherto undiscovered prehistoric hominid or a popularly perceived caveman archetype. All re-education and rehabilitation efforts to date have failed due to the radical simplification of subjects' brain structures. Addendum 1 Acquisition Log. SCP-1226 was acquired on blankety-blank following its unveiling somewhere, at somebody's gallery somewhere. The unveiling event was heavily promoted as featuring the latest work of somebody, and was attended by many well-known members of the global artistic community. The unveiling event exposed blank 100 individuals to the anomalous effects of 1226. Those gallery patrons and employees not exposed were killed by the exposed subjects over the next half hour, either through bludgeoning, cannibalism, or some combination thereof. 911 calls and police reports were intercepted by MTF Epsilon 23 art critics, affected subjects captured or eliminated, and amnestics administered to witnesses and first responders. The anomalous effects were confirmed on site by MTF Epsilon 23, and 1226 was taken into containment. Text of informational plaque. The inevitable conclusion of the modern age is in self-destruction. The postmodern era will be like the pre-modern era, the new will be like the old, there will be shiny chrome primitivism for everyone, and we'll all finally be cool. Mr. Noted postmodernist painter, professed no knowledge of an exhibition at Data Redacted featuring his work. Furthermore, 1226 is highly atypical of his artwork. So it was once again the Are We Cool Yet people. Are there just going to be a lot of Are We Cool Yet stuff in the 1200s? Like, as I started reading, it felt like it was going to be them, so I guess at this point, if it's an art installation that's not the Peanut, it's probably the Are We Cool Yet people. Alright, the Family Man. Unless the Peanut has been altered to be the Are We Cool Yet people. Oh, hey, it's a Euclid 1! We finally got something that's not safe. I'm going to take a swig of this Snapple before I continue. I don't know how much of a measurement a swig is, but that was probably more than a swig. SCP-1227 is to be kept in a concrete chamber 30 by 30 by 5 meters, only accessible through a double airlock system. All researchers wishing to investigate it must wear regulation biohazard suits with an enclosed onboard oxygen supply. The chamber contains a 20-meter wide red circle painted on the floor, henceforth referred to as the safe zone. Before Airlock D is opened, 1227 will be instructed to move to the center of the safe zone. Throughout our interactions with 1227, it has been noted that it is relatively docile and will usually submit to these requests. However, its cooperation should not be taken for granted, and Airlock D will not be open until it is fully within the safe zone. Due to 1227's passive nature and severely limited mobility, safety outside the safe zone is usually assured. Under no circumstances should any personnel or other biological material enter the safe zone or engage in physical contact with 1227. Description: it is believed that SCP-1227 was formerly Yuri Seryogin, a political prisoner of the USSR, arrested in 1957 for pro-democracy leanings. Parts of 1227's extended body have also been positively identified. Scars on the face of E have been matched to photographs of Alexei Blank, a known associate of 1227. B is believed to be the trunk and head of their wife by his own admission. The remaining parts of the mass remain unidentified. Documents obtained by the Foundation after the collapse of the Soviet Union have revealed that 1227 is the indirect result of a Russian social experiment conducted by someone during the winter of 1960. During this study, 6 political prisoners, including Yuri, Alexei, and Yuri's wife, were led into the depths of an unidentified cave by the KGB as an experiment into group dynamics under severe stress. The prisoners were provided with a limited food supply and water, but no light sources. After 5 days of relatively normal social functioning, the group descended into 2 warring factions, which eventually led to 3 further days of incoherent screaming, muttering, torture, rape, and 1 forced abortion. On the final day of the experiment, the KGB researchers recorded some disturbing sounds over the concealed microphones, including screaming, pleading, vomiting, and redacted. The caving team sent to observe the status of the prisoners discovered a large amount of decomposing human tissue in a liquefied state, with 1227 having formed in the center of it, apparently in good physical and mental health, and failing to notice anything amiss with its new situation. The Foundation was notified, and 1227 was extracted from the USSR by Mobile Task Force Epsilon something. 1227 appears to be a male figure bonded to the heavily disfigured bodies of 9 people by a red web-like mass, which has been confirmed to be 1227's own muscles, and tube-like extrusions confirmed to be heavily developed extrusion... to me? Heavily developed okay, I thought I had read wrong. Extrusions of 1227's own respiratory and digestive tracts. Experimentation has demonstrated that physical contact with 1227 will lead to this bonding process being initiated. Firstly, the victim will fall into a coma-like state, whatever part of the body that contacted the creature becoming fused there. Then 1227 will permanently bond the victim's body to its own by extruding its own blood vessels and nerves into the victim's body. Finally, 1227 will take control of one or more of the victim's vital systems by assimilating that system into its own, with its own nerves and blood vessels/intestines. Any part of the victim not associated with the system will lose blood flow and eventually drop off. 1227 will feed any limbs that drop off into the beginning of its extended digestive tract, a hole in the chest of D. The heart is always kept alive to pump blood around the vastly extended body. Although 1227 does not seem to harbor ill will towards human beings to any major extent, it wields no control over this ability, hence the Safe Zone Protocol. Experimental data suggests that this combination of multiple organ systems has greatly increased 1227's biological efficiency, allowing it to survive on extremely limited resources. One observed effect is that 1227's urinary tract is now 3 times longer than normal, and so efficient that 1227F is now observed to deposit roughly 60 grams of concentrated urine every 3 years, which analysis has demonstrated to be 99.9% pure urea, whatever that is. A and C have had their respiratory tracts connected into 1227's lungs, meaning that he can process air so efficiently that 1227 can survive for a duration of up to 6 months in a complete vacuum, at the cost of falling into a hibernation-like state. A full breakdown of the bodily system follows. Unless otherwise stated, all victims are USSR political prisoners. A. Unidentified male, connected to 1227 by 1.5 meters of esophagus/blood vessels. Legs have been removed, arms still mobile, used to propel the mass. B. Unidentified female, connected to 1227's back by extruded muscle. Only trunk and head remain, all other limbs removed. Her womb has data redacted. Pupils will contract in response to high-intensity light sources. C. Unidentified male, connected to 1227 by 0.8 meters of esophagus/blood vessels. All limbs have been removed, mouth will occasionally gape widely for reasons unknown. D. KBG researcher blank, connected to 1227 by 0.5 meters of intestines. Head and limbs have been removed, serves as beginning of digestive tract. All food is placed directly into the stomach via a hole in the chest. E. Alexei blank, connected to 1227 by extruded muscle. Only the head, trunk, and legs remain used to help mobilize 1227. F. Unidentified male, connected by 2 meters of urinary tract to G. Only the trunk and right arm remain, used to process urine and to mobilize 1227. G. Unidentified male KGB researcher, connected by 3 meters of digestive tract. Only trunk and right leg remain, serves as the end of the digestive system. Foundation male D-class personnel someone, connected by blank as well as the extended brainstem. Only the head and heart remain. Foundation test canine, connected to 1227 by 5 meters of extruded nervous system. Only head and front legs remain. 1227 claims it is a precaution for self-defense. It will often crawl to the limit of the connection to bark and whine at researchers. Close observations reveal that it is outside of 1227's control. I really wish we hadn't tested if the effect also works on animals, but now I expect you to honor Safe Zone Protocol more than ever until we find a way to amputate the damn thing. 05 blank. Despite the changes 1227 has undergone, he still possesses human intelligence and reasoning. He has been successfully taught English and to a sufficiently advanced degree. Psychoanalysis showed no sign of cognitive defects or disorder of thought patterns and processing. 1227 has permitted books and other entertainment at lead researcher Sarah Townsend's discretion, as well as daily visits from friends selected for him by the research staff. 1227 appears to have a normal level of social functioning, and during these visits enjoys hearing stories or news about the outside world. However, it has become apparent that 1227 harbors well-developed delusions into its current state of being, often claiming that A through H are children playing peacefully nearby, as well as repeatedly claiming that D's stomach is an oven. Further interviews have shown that 1227 believes itself to be in a normal family setting with a wife and several children. It appears to regard containment and constant experimentation as a normal part of family life, never questioning orders or requests in order to preserve its own illusions. Rational emotive therapy has been applied without success. On one notable occasion, 22/9-something, 1227 complained of feeling hungry. Minutes later, he grabbed an unwary D-class personnel and mostly tore him apart, feeding the carcass into D. Afterwards, he bonded what remained to his biomass, which would later become H. He appeared to be under the impression that he was preparing a feast for his family the whole time. It is currently unclear if these delusions are symptoms of a disorder such as schizophrenia, or if 1227 is attempting to escape the horror of its current situation by creating a full intrapsychic world where it feels safe. It should be noted that 1227 often claims its childhood was the happiest time of its life, and perhaps this is why its delusions center around themes such as childhood and family. One major breakthrough came when 1227 admitted that the serious puncture wounds to both its eyes were self-inflicted, possibly in an attempt to escape the sight of its own vastly mutilated body. All attempts at therapy have failed. The subject appears to be in a well-developed denial system, often becoming aggressive and frustrated when therapists tell him they cannot see his 7 playing children or his devoted wife. All attempts to get 1227 to elaborate on the events inside the cave, or how he acquired these new abilities, are typically met with sudden staring, drawing its body parts around it, and refusing to speak for 2 to 4 months. Okie dokie. The Fan Club. The Fan Club is also Euclid, hey! Special containment procedures. Foundation agents are to infiltrate all major internet service providers to ensure civilian access to 1228 is blocked. Any personnel accessing 1228 for testing purposes is to be accompanied by at least one researcher and must submit to mandatory psychological evaluations afterwards. Access to 1228 outside of testing purposes is now strictly forbidden. See Incident A for further details. Okay, it's not a very long page, but the conversation log's not here yet. SCP-1228 is a website within the domain something.com. Any software used to monitor internet connections crashes when applied to connections to 1228, so its IP address is unknown. The domain is not registered by anyone, and when usually access gives the normal DNS lookup failed error. However, if viewed by an individual with a history of creative aspirations, 1228 will appear as the page of the viewer's official fan club. Although the site contents vary from individual to individual, a few pages appear consistently. Wiki, extensive documents of the subject's work. Subjects typically claim that the non-existent titles listed are something they've always wanted to do. News. Reports of non-existent events in the subject's life. Events reported are invariably of a positive nature, such as the subject winning a major award for their work. Interviews with the subject are often listed here as well, with the subject usually mentioning in the interview that they're glad they chose to pursue their passion rather than their career path in real life. Forums. Discussion of the subject and their work. Posters' comments are all unanimously positive, praising everything the subject has produced. Crossed out used to say, in order to gather as much information on 1228 as possible, the Foundation strongly encourages test subjects to post on the forums themselves. Store. A store exists for the purchase of merchandise pertaining to the subject's work, such as t-shirts, posters, and figurines. Within blank hours of making a purchase, an unmarked package will arrive at the subject's address containing the products in question. Attempts to trace the origin of the packages and their products have proven unsuccessful. After viewing 1228, subjects will report feelings of depression, with 30% attempting suicide shortly afterwards. Incident A. On September the 17th, 2000-something, Dr. Somebody, the current researcher presiding over 1228, was reported missing. An aspiring writer in his youth, they had taken to browsing 1228 obsessively. An investigation of his offices revealed a log of private messages with a forum poster named Ellen. An agent was dispatched to the address, revealing an abandoned 2-story house. Dr. Blank's current whereabouts remain unknown. I can't believe it! It's really you! You have no idea how long I've dreamed of talking with you! Oh, thanks! It's always an honor talking to a fan. I've read every single one of your books. I especially like the one about the guy who goes crazy at sea. I cried like a baby at the end. Really? That's what I've always wanted to do ever since I was a kid, really. Write something that makes people emotional. You make me real emotional, if you know what I mean. You wouldn't be interested in meeting up sometime, would you? I'd love to. Where at? I live at Redacted. See you then. And now he's gone. Okay, 37 films starring Lana Neal. Is Lana Neal a real person? Right, Bing, can't check. But cell phone. Let's find out. Well, there are real people called Lana Neal, but they're probably not the people in this particular SCP. Ooh. My cell phone almost, died. So, SCP-1229, it's safe. Lies. Instances of SCP-1229 are to be saved on the Site-28 secure server and cataloged in the research file. Access to the files is to be conducted in a... Okay, I said the word right. It felt like I said conducted, which is not the thing I wanted to say. In accordance with standard Foundation electronic information security protocols. Research staff are to monitor internet traffic for 1229. Upon detection of an instance, staff are to copy the file for Foundation records and containment, record and track IP addresses associated with uploading, and take action to immediately delete it. See Clandestine Electronic Data Interference Guide for more details. Due to the unpredictable nature of 1229 instances appearing on the internet, and in order to minimize public knowledge of their anomalous properties, all information and records pertaining to Ms. Lana Neal have been expunged. Okay, well that's probably why I didn't find anything other than real people called that. Periodic checks for any remaining records concerning this individual are to be carried out to ensure that no information remains accessible to the general public. All original camera negatives of the 4 films in which Ms. Neal appeared have been seized by the Foundation and are currently stored in the Site-28 research archives. Due to the relatively low awareness and quality of these films, copies were never widely distributed, and the few available reproductions have been obtained by the Foundation. Suppression of this information has achieved a Grade 3 widespread public awareness scenario, consisting of a low-level, lingering knowledge of Ms. Neal's existence among cinema enthusiasts, typically characterized in these circles as an urban legend. Description: SCP-1229 is a series of, to date, 37 electronic video files first documented in 2002 and continuing into the present, which have thus far included files in AVI, MKV, MPEG, and WMV formats. Each video file is a depiction of Lana Neal, an obscure British actress active during the early 1970s, and what appear to be a variety of different programs meant for television broadcasts. Biometric data analysis, voice recognition software, and audiovisual manipulation screens have determined that each 1229 instance is a true and accurate recording of Ms. Neal. How these recordings are made is not understood at this time, as Ms. Neal has been deceased as of March the 18th, 1974. This has been confirmed by exhumation of Ms. Neal's remains and DNA analysis of tissue samples obtained in this manner. A coroner's inquest prior to Foundation expungement of public records listed the cause of death as acute cranial trauma related to a fall, which was confirmed by Foundation research staff upon exhumation of Ms. Neal's remains. No criminal act is suspected at this time to have occurred in relation to her death. The ostensible subject material of each instance varies. Video transmissions have included programs formatted as nature documentaries, sitcoms, game shows, serial dramas, and other programs typically broadcast on television. Each broadcast centrally features Ms. Neal. To date, no other persons have ever appeared. Dialogue, when present and or audible, consists of Ms. Neal appearing to read from a script or a prompt outside the view of the camera, and is almost always inconsistent with the type of show the broadcast appears to be. Due to references to noteworthy contemporaneous events and recorded dialogue, it is assumed that these broadcasts are continually being created and distributed by an unknown party or parties. Instances of 1229 are typically found on torrent websites and other file-sharing locations on the internet. While research staff have been able to identify IP addresses associated with 1229 uploads, these addresses have never been observed to correspond to an assigned extant user. No known instances of 1229 have been observed to have been transmitted via any type of television signal. After extensive experimentation involving D-Class personnel, no anomalous effects have been observed in association with viewings of 1229. Research Log 1229. The following is a list of partial 1229 transmissions. In all cases, camera technology, filming techniques, and appearance match a television production circa 1974. Evidence suggests, however, that these transmissions have been created over the past decade and continue to be produced. All dialogue and transcripts are spoken by Ms. Neal unless otherwise noted. Okay. Transmission consists of Ms. Neal standing in the Three Rivers Stadium broadcast booth in Pittsburgh, United States. The view behind her depicts an empty stadium. A graphic display on the screen reads 1974 NLCS Los Angeles Dodgers vs. Pittsburgh Pirates. Ms. Neal speaks into a handheld microphone and faces the camera. Okay. How many of these are there? How is this partial? I'm gonna skip through this until I get to the one that has red in it. Okay? Transmission depicts Ms. Neal singing a song in French accompanied by piano. Original transmission appears to be 5 minutes and 38 seconds in length. However, an additional 10 seconds of footage are present at the end in an alternate version recovered from the blank file sharing service on December 22nd, 2013. To date, this is the only observed instance to manifest in multiple versions. Additional documentation available through Site 28 Research Archives. Lana Neal sings the blues. Researchers note, original song by Ms. Neal is in French and has been translated into English by research staff. Where does this go? Okay, it's a whole story. I thought it was going to be an actual video or something. Okay, and that brings us to A Hero Was Born. What happens in A Hero Being Born? It says it's safe, but it also has a whole, like, paragraph crossed out. So it used to say, SCP-1230 is to be kept in a secure storage locker at Site 12. Access requires minimum Clearance 2 with authorization and supervision by Clearance 3 research and security staff respectively. Supervising personnel are not to view the contents. Personnel accessing it are required to submit written accounts of dreams experienced within 48 hours. See Addendum A. Now it says, SCP-1230 has been relocated to a secure storage locker behind the desk of Site 12's main library. Access is available to Clearance 2 personnel deemed to be in satisfactory psychological condition by Site psychiatric staff. Personnel accessing 1230 must submit written accounts of their dreams within 48 hours of access and submit a follow-up psychological examination. Okay. SCP-1230 is an unlabeled green hardcover book with no apparent exceptional qualities. When it's opened, it displays the phrase, "A hero was born," on the first page viewed, while all other pages will be blank, resetting once the book is closed. This has no obvious effects at first, but upon falling asleep, the reader will dream of a fantasy world, where they are the protagonists of a troubled land. Dreamers are completely aware and all senses work just as well as when awake. Results vary depending on the imagination of the reader, and are mostly attuned to fantasies of adventure that the reader would enjoy. In the mind of the reader, these dreams have been documented to last anywhere from 45 seconds, see Experiment 3, to 200 years, but in reality, the reader will usually never be asleep longer than they normally would. Upon awaking, the reader is able to remember every aspect of their dream in detail. In 1230-induced dreams, there is always a character called the Bookkeeper. 1. Appears as a bearded man in a green cloak, who claims to be the personification of 1230 himself. 1 has been reported to be very amicable and helpful towards dreamers. It has been stated that it enjoys creating these fantasy escapes and always tries to shape them in such a way that the dreamer garners the most entertainment out of it. It has expressed sorrow when the dream comes to an end and asks the dreamer to please visit again. Discovery. At a small bookstore located data expunged, the shopkeeper had no recollection of owning the unlabeled book. but attempted to sell the story to local newspapers about a magical dream book. The Foundation was able to dispel the story as a hoax, and it was confiscated. Experiment 1. Dr. F, in an attempt to test his effective range, opened 12:30 and boarded a flight to his hometown of Redacted, where he spent the night at a hotel. Upon his return, Dr. F reported that one appeared in his dreams and explained that once you read A Hero is Born, the dream is immediately implanted in your subconscious, after which one is able to manipulate it remotely. Dr. F expressed his appreciation for one's cooperation. Experiment 2. A camera was set up above 12:30, and using a mechanical arm, the book was opened. All pages were revealed to be blank. It seems that 12:30 is only effective when opened by beings that are able to have dreams. One explained to a subsequent dreamer that it is actually only able to affect beings with an imagination, and that most creatures such as animals would not be affected. Experiment 3. One D-class was instructed to open the book and, after much reassurance that his experience would only be dreams, ordered to immediately find a way to kill himself in the dream. The subject was asleep for merely 45 seconds before he awoke with a start and a nervous sweat. He reported being at the summit of a volcano called the Ashen Spire, on a quest for Caladius, the Blessed Blade. When asked how the subject knew the names, he stated, It's like I knew them all along. He apparently leapt into the volcano and felt an intense heat before awakening. D-Class requested permission to give it another go. Request was denied. One D-Class was instructed to open the book and attempt to non-fatally injure himself in the dream. After 6 hours, awoke and reported that he was able to feel a numbed sort of pain, where it was never so intense as to be unbearable. He also reported meeting an elderly cloaked man who asked him why he was harming himself, but thanked him for not immediately killing himself like that other rude fellow. Experiment 5. Professor B filed a request for access to 12:30 and was quickly permitted, given his level 4 clearance. Staff members recalled that Professor B was almost visibly shaking with excitement, and some reported that Professor B was an avid fan of tabletop and role-playing games. Surveillance shows that Professor B opened the book, read the phrase, sat down beside the desk, and promptly fell asleep. Staff members were alarmed when Professor B did not awake after 15 hours and alerted security. The on-site medical staff were able to confirm that Professor B was still alive and in good health. After approximately 24 hours since falling asleep, Professor B began to move, reported to have slowly raised his head and looked around the room, appearing deeply confused. Security entered the room to ensure he was alright, to which he replied, "Where am I?" He was sent to medical, where his staff explained where and who he was. Several minutes later, Professor B appeared to have regained his memory and excused himself to the restroom. When 15 minutes had passed and Professor B had not exited, a nurse entered to find he had hanged himself with his belt. A scribbled message on the wall revealed his last words: "I can't go back to this." Dr. F went to ask one what had happened, but upon opening 12:30, all his pages were soaking wet with the same message on every page. "I'm so sorry, I never intended for this to happen. I just wanted to make people happy," repeated over and over. 12:30 remained in this state for 3 weeks, and its desk had to be wiped dry bi-weekly. In an attempt to communicate, Dr. F placed a sticky note inside 12:30 with the statement, "I'd like to talk to you if that's alright." The next morning, Dr. F filed a report about a dream he had concerning 12:30-1. Report. Upon falling asleep last night, I dreamt I was in a dark void. There was a street lamp, and underneath it was one sitting in a puddle. His cloak was visibly soaked, and he was sobbing profusely. I remember our conversation. "Bookkeeper? Is that you? My God, man, where are we? I couldn't think of anything to make for a landscape. Bookkeeper, what happened that day? Why did Professor B kill himself? We have to know your side of the story." "He had such an active imagination. I was able to create a vast and beautiful universe for him, and it was obvious that he wanted a life like that for so long. He conquered foul beasts and rescued princesses. He built kingdoms, even raised a family, but he never wanted to leave. He delved so far into his fantasy that I soon realized he preferred his dream over the real world. I reminded him that this was all merely an illusion, but he wouldn't listen to me. He stated that if he was ever forced to leave, he would immediately end his life. I tried to keep him happy for as long as I could." Bookkeeper, how long was the dream from his point of view? 200 years, Doctor. I did my best, but I could only hold on to him for 200 years. As sweet as dreams may be, eventually we all have to wake up. I woke almost immediately after. I can't believe he spent 200 years in his dream. I'm astounded by his foolishness, but it's such a shame to have lost a brilliant mind to his own delusions. Shortly after the report was filed, surveillance showed Dr. F slipping in another small paper into 1230. A few days later, 1230 began showing its usual "a hero was born" greeting once again. When asked what the note said, Dr. F declined to give detailed comment, simply stating that he just gave it some friendly advice. Addendum A. During initial testing, one asked Dreaming personnel if it could be relocated to an area with many books, preferably fiction, so that it could think of even better ways to construct its fantasy-scapes. After numerous experiments were performed to ensure 1230 posed no threat, the request was accepted and 1230 has been relocated to Site 12's library. Oh, I like this one. Like, it's actually safe, and that was, I really like that one. That was nice. Except for what happened to that one dude. That was not nice. But this particular SCP is really nice. So next up is the theoretical family. What the heck? Okay, memetic hazard. Warning. The following SCP object is a beta-gamma white level memetic hazard that cannot be countered by current Foundation technology. Unauthorized personnel viewing this file will be terminated. Authorized personnel who do not wish to view this file should close their browsers at this time and submit to a superior for amnestic administration. Level 5 authorization required. Well, it didn't stop me from reading 001 and is not stopping me now. Let's go. Alright, so it's Euclid. SCP-1231 is contained in an unlit vault dimensions 0.6 by 0.8 by 0.2 meters located in Site 20. Guards are posted outside of the vault, denying access to all personnel without direct and confirmed Level 5 authorization. A video camera is installed in the vault taking a live feed of SCP-1231, which says, "Note that no external light source is necessary due to it providing approximately 20 lux." This video is in turn fed through a specially designed program displaying only the number of thumbnails and if there is a significant error. Access to the raw feed is strictly prohibited. A mouse is located near the terminal but remains disconnected under normal circumstances. New personnel assigned to 1231 must be handpicked specifically for testing purposes. However, testing is currently suspended. Alright. SCP-1231 is a black Amiga A1200 computer manufactured by Commodore International, missing all other identifying marks including its serial number. It runs independently despite the lack of a power source. It does not function as an Amiga A1200 should, and generally only displays a screen full of thumbnails named the primary screen. It cannot be shifted from its current settings, and as of yet, no other programs have been discovered on the computer. External attachments such as mice and keyboards work normally. The primary screen contains 6,563 thumbnails organized in rows of 20, ascending numerically by age. A scroll bar is located on the right side of the screen. More detailed analysis of the layout of the primary screen is located in Document B. The thumbnails display extremely low resolution moving pictures. It used to say there is no audio, but now it says most videos do not contain audio. However, despite the lack of speakers on 1231, low decibel sounds can occasionally be heard. Clicking on the thumbnail causes the video displayed to increase in resolution and fill nearly the entire screen, except for a thin white bar at the top bearing the number of the thumbnail. Clicking a second time returns the screen to the primary screen. Although the videos vary significantly, there are consistently 3 subjects known as 1, 2, and 3 present. 1 is a generally tall, middle-aged Caucasian man. 2 is a generally younger, shorter Korean woman. 3 generally appears as either a light-colored child approximately 4 years of age or a feral mid-sized animal. The videos do not loop, although the same actions are performed repeatedly in the videos with incredibly minor deviations. New videos are generated when a human subject misperceives an existing video or thumbnail. The new video contains a representation of what was believed to be in the prior video. Testing has shown that only minor details such as the color or position of an object is sufficient for this effect to occur. Direct observation of 1231 is not necessary, and rudimentary knowledge of a video or thumbnail can lead to speculations that generate more videos. However, new videos can be created at a maximum rate of 1 per minute. Due to the virulence of its info-hazardous properties, 1231 is classified as a beta-gamma white info-hazard. Excerpts from Document A, thumbnail descriptions. Thumbnail 1, data expunged. Thumbnail 2. The setting is the same room as Thumbnail 1, discovered on the second test of 1231, believed to have been created after exposure to 1. 2 is scooping an unknown powder with her left hand while 3 is asleep in her right arm. 1 is not on the screen. Thumbnail 3. The setting is the same as thumbnail 1, discovered on the second test, believed to have been created after exposure. 2 is asleep while 3 is crawling over her. 1's leg is present in the upper right of the screen, although the rest of his body seems to be just outside of view. Test 4, same room, discovered second test. 3 is mauling the pectoralis minor of 2. 1's mutilated right leg and pelvic region is located in the upper right portion of the screen. Aha. Thumbnail 39. The setting is the same as thumbnail 18, discovered on the second test, believed to have been created after exposure to thumbnail 24. 1 is dislocating and relocating 2's shoulder with his right hand, though both are standing erect. 3 is asleep in the upper left of the screen. Thumbnail 902. The setting is the same as thumbnail 600, discovered on the second test, believed to have been created after exposure to 419. 1 is lying on top of 2, smashing 3 on the floor. 2 is completely motionless. Thumbnail 1170. The setting is the same room as thumbnail 1053, discovered on the second test, believed to have been created after exposure to 1004. 1 and 2 are kneeling, facing the camera, drenched in blood, crying and mouthing non-discernible words. What appears to be the mutilated corpse of 3 is lying in front of 2. A low-pitched laughter is audible throughout. Addendum 1. Due to the high level of similarity between SCP-1231 and other encountered soul traps, it has been deemed likely that the entities 1, 2, and 3 are real in some capacity. In light of this, I am formally requesting that testing on this subject be halted. Researcher Blank Ethics Committee. Addendum 2. Testing on 1231 has been suspended indefinitely. The majority of personnel assigned to 1231 will be administered a Class B amnesiac and transferred to a new project, 05 someone. Addendum 3. Processed video feeds of 1231 have shown that the number of thumbnails is increasing despite the suppression of knowledge relating to 1231. Something's wrong, Dr. Blank. I'm not 100% sure why this is a info hazard or a cognito hazard. There's no pictures of it, so the article itself isn't a cognito hazard. And seeing the picture doesn't really do anything to the people looking at it from the sound of it. It sounds like the only reason it's rated that way is because, as I said, it might be a soul trap, and they might just be doing things to some people who are just going insane the more things happen. But I'm still not sure how that's a cognito hazard or an info hazard. Unless it's eventually going to get to the point where there's so many pictures they break out of the computer, and then there's just going to be hundreds of thousands of these insane people doing whatever it is they do. So, the Novostadov Syndrome, however you say it. It's safe. Male instance of SCP-1232-1, second stage, formerly Private VI Novostadov. Samples of 1232 are to be kept in cryogenic storage on BIOS Research Site 21. It used to say, while experimentation upon 1232 is permitted, experimental proposals need to be validated by a researcher of valid 2/1232 clearance beforehand due to limited supply. Now it says, as of December the 3rd, 1963, a process was devised to replicate 1232 with reasonable efficiency. See document Row. As such, experimental proposals only require validation if it would be ordinarily required by the SCP Foundation Requisitions Guidelines, Section C 1-7 and H 1-5. Dr. Minea, Section Head. As the time required for a majority of 1232 testing greatly exceeds 1 month, disposable dues involved in testing it are exempt from monthly termination by default. Due to resistance of 1232 to high temperatures, any item suspected of contamination must be decontaminated by immersion in 1 molar sodium, I guess it's sodium oxygen hydrogen solution? And subsequent heating and a gravity displacement autoclave to 121 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, followed by sterilization as usual. See document 1232 Sigma for a complete list of approved procedures where the stated is not appropriate. Personnel manipulating SCP-1232 samples are to use Level A hazardous materials, protective clothing, manufactured to standards outlined in document 1232 Sigma. As instances of 1 in the first stage are difficult to separate from the general population, the recommended means of identification of such is working through those related to known 1 instances, assuming the most common symptom progression. In this stage, the removal of reproductive organs seems to halt the progress of the condition, and the residual symptoms are susceptible to treatment by most tricyclic antidepressants. Instances of 1 in the second stage are essentially untreatable due to the extent of disruption to physiologic processes taking place. Furthermore, even if treated, their reintroduction to society would be problematic. As such, they are to be euthanized or left to expire on their own and cremated. Description used to say it is the designation given to a mixture of unknown proteins capable of causing a condition designated Novostadov Syndrome. The mechanism upon which it relies is poorly understood at the moment. Now it says SCP-1232 is the designation given to a mixture of misfolded variants of redacted proteins, prions, capable of causing a condition designated Novostadov Syndrome. The precise mechanism of action is unknown. Administration of isolated constituent prions or partial mixtures to human subjects had no discernible effects, or caused conditions only weakly related to the symptoms. 1232 does not denature easily by heat treatment alone, and can withstand temperatures of up to 230 degrees Celsius for roughly 15 seconds. Heating with basic agents, preferably that. Of normally at least one has been shown effective. Novostadov Syndrome is a progressively developing condition caused by the introduction of a sufficient quantity of 1232 into human body. A dose of approximately 50 micrograms administered intravenously appears sufficient to cause the condition in 50% of tested disposable dudes. The onset of the condition can be split into two phases. During the first phase, which sets in at approximately 1 to 3 weeks after introduction of 1232 into the subject's body, the subject, designated 1, will become increasingly perfunctory and depressed. Subjective assessment along with supportive evidence, e.g. penile data, show a significant decrease in ability to feel sexual arousal. Of interest is that the appetite tends to stay unchanged in a disproportionate amount of cases compared to a control group where depression was induced chemically, and one during this phase have a tendency to gain weight, usually 10 to 15 kilograms over the duration. You can chemically cause depression on purpose? No, I'm not gonna... No. At this stage, no obvious physiologic changes are present in males. Let's see. Towards the end of this stage, approximately 22% of one will release 1232 through sweating. In females, redacted instead of fluid. This phase tends to last between 6 to 8 months. I can probably make a guess at what that redacted is, but I don't think I should. At least not in the video. But the second phase onset is marked by a sudden loss of appetite, elevated body temperature, insomnia, and increased secretion of androgens. During the onset, one reported subjective improvement to their demeanor. Significant quantities of 1232 are present in urine and possibly other bodily fluids of one at this point. In addition, the menstrual cycle of female subjects is disrupted, with a large number of eggs beginning to mature and the uterine lining thickening. In approximately 3% of the subjects, this results in acute endometriosis. I don't know what that means. Usually within the next 5 days, the libido of one will return and proceed to increase, becoming the defining trait of their behavior. In the case of male instances of one, overwhelming even their survival instincts towards the end of the period. One can transmit 1232 via sexual intercourse. This tends to occur successfully in approximately 25% of cases under laboratory conditions. So my guess about what happens to females is probably right, but I'm still not going to say it. Usually within the next 5 days, the libido of one will return and... Okay, I already read that. I'm here. Instances of both genders will aggressively attempt to mate with any suitable human, often settling for animals or inanimate objects if none are available. Male subjects tend to expire after a further 2 to 4 days due to a combination of exhaustion from lack of sleep and nutrition, and the collapse of the immune system caused by excessive testosterone levels. That can collapse the immune system? Wouldn't that mean that steroids kill people? Well, I mean, I guess they do. I don't know. Female one can be separated into 3 groups. Those in which fertilization occurs late or not at all tend to expire due to the same reasons as male subjects. If fertilization occurs early, the androgen levels tend to drop and one's behavior will slowly normalize over the following days. The subsequent progress depends on the number of fertilized ovocytes surviving. The ovocytes nest and appear to undergo development accelerated roughly 3 times compared to regular embryos. In approximately 95% of subjects, the amount of surviving ovocytes exceeds 20, and the subject likely expires during the first month of such pregnancy due to resulting complications. In the remaining 5% of subjects, the pregnancy progresses at the accelerated rate until the end of the 2nd month, where the placentae data expunge sacs. Continuing to raise such feti in vitro is possible, and once outside the mother's body, the growth rate will slowly decrease to match that of feti in the same development stage. Infants raised this way show no significant difference to the control group. Recovery log. SCP-1232 was first isolated from the bodily fluids of Private V.I. Novostadov on something 1954. Several months after he, along with a group of Soviet soldiers, participated in the decommissioning of a then-discovered underground facility located in the territory German Democratic Republic, which is, at the time, Foundation agents were unable to determine the precise location or contents of the facility. Data obtained since indicates it was emptied and demolished by agents of GRU Division P on something 1955, and that the facility has formerly belonged to the Bayer Pharmaceutical Concern, at the time of a part of IG Farben conglomerate. See Addendum 1. Private Novostadov was executed following his desertion, capture, and subsequent admission to 37 cases of rape and sodomy perpetrated in the village. I've misread that in like the worst possible timing. I apologize. In the village of blank Polish People's Republic in the vicinity of a Soviet military base over the course of 2 weeks. Okay. Posthumously aborted Foundation Gold Star for Services. Agent Golavinov, by the time infiltrated within the Soviet army as a telegraphist, has managed to capture a coded depeche ordering the prompt incineration of Private Novostadov's remains, and was able to obtain tissue samples and a copy of the autopsy report. The events following this are unclear due to Golavinov's death, see Personnel File 1934-135-13 IPG, which isn't probably not here. However, it is known that all of Novostadov's surviving victims disappeared approximately 2 months after his execution. I guess that's probably since it does the thing where it raises the libido to the point that you can't really do anything else with your existence, and just going after any human. Addendum 1, copy of message intercepted by Soviet agents on something 1944. Fritz, I need you from Dr. Maziger to Dr. Termir. I need you to talk about our project to blank at the ministry again. I got shouted at by Berger again yesterday. Apparently they're expecting them to leap out at their... leap out at their mother's twat and grab a shovel or a rifle while we haven't even fixed the slowdown. The rest of the troubles be damned. Hell, even if we get it to work, a 4-fold increase is the most I can get. I said it's a long-term solution, not miracle work we're doing here. Besides, despite the redacted, yesterday's bombing raid means half our supplies are in the devil's arse, and what's worse, Klaus was overseeing redacted, and you know a good half of the synthesis process was his work alone. Anyways, write how it will go and send my greetings to Ilsa. She still works at redacted, not so? As soon as we push the red swine out back again, and I'll be able to take a few days off, I'll jump on a train and come. Got Mitsuns Martin. How did we go from the wholesome A Hero Was Born book to just swerving into the just graphically uncomfortable so fast? Now it's time for the lunatic. It's not getting any better, is it? What the heck? What is this? Why does it look like this? Containment class keter, disruption class Eki, risk class danger. What is this? Okay. Special containment procedures. SCP-1233's anomalous physical properties all but preclude the possibility of primary containment, and as such, secondary containment measures are considered adequate until a feasible method of physical containment is devised. Foundation Satellite Observation Network Argus is to enter Priority 2 High Alert status 3 years and 6 months following the last observed 1233 departure event. And what is Argus? Atmospheric Reconnaissance Global Observation System. I wasn't expecting it to actually tell me what Argus means, but thank you! When Argus detects 1233 in the upper thermosphere, a contingent from any nearby covert amnesticization... That is a weird word. And disinformation mobile task force will be dispatched to the populations that are closest to the terminus of 1233's descent trajectory. After the entity's departure from Earth orbit, all appearance of and damages caused by 1233 are to be accounted for with a suitable cover story in conjunction with media blackout, and any civilians having witnessed an overt display of the anomalous effects are to be given amnestics at MTF discretion. Mass amnestics of the affected city may be authorized in the event of unusually prolonged 1233 appearances. Update, October the 5th, 2017. Under no circumstances are Foundation personnel permitted to interact with or engage 1233 in any capacity. Okay. SCP-1233 is a humanoid entity of unknown composition which visually resembles an individual wearing an EMU-type spacesuit with opaque visor and attached extravehicular propulsion jetpack. And EMU is Extravehicular Mobility Suit, a model of spacesuit worn by NASA and International Space Station crew members. The equipment worn by 1233 exhibits a number of anomalous properties. The suit itself has shown durability far exceeding that of a standard spacesuit. 1233 has to date withstood small arms fire, anti-tank munitions, landmines, white phosphorus munitions, and in one instance total submersion in magma without sustaining any observable damage or decrease in functionality. The suit material is also opaque to all attempted forms of penetrative scanning, up to and including ultrasonic, radio, microwave, and X-ray emitters. The entity's jetpack, while ostensibly designed to be practical only in low-gravity orbital conditions and powered by compressed nitrogen, instead appears to utilize some form of anomalously high-powered rocket propulsion system. This device can sustainably generate thrust capable of rapidly accelerating the entity to a maximum observed velocity of approximately 40,500 kilometers per hour. What does that say? Slightly greater than the Earth's surface level escape velocity, and can alter 1233's trajectory in any direction at speeds and rates of acceleration/deceleration that would be instantly fatal to any human. 1233's physical strength is correspondingly anomalous. It has demonstrated the ability to lift and throw objects weighing up to 65,000 kilograms, and can do so repeatedly without showing any external signs of fatigue in defiance of multiple physical laws. SCP-1233 is capable of communicating through a loudspeaker installed in its suit, and does so in a loud, somewhat grandiloquent and declamatory male voice, demonstrating fluency in a number of languages and adjusting its speech to conform with whatever language is most commonly spoken by the surrounding populace. Its statements are generally coherent in structure, but are frequently rambling, oblique, irrelevant to the present situation, or lacking discernible context. 1233's behavior is erratic, unpredictable, gregarious, cordial, and somewhat destructive, though its appearances are typically brief and infrequent, with sightings occurring only once per 4 to 5 years. Let's see. 2 Lost Souls, I Dreamed a Dream, Waiting in the Sky, Moon Champion Cinco de Mayo Extravaganza. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that all 4 of these are tales in which it showed up somewhere. An SCP-1233 arrival event will begin with the entity falling from an unknown height above the Earth's surface, generally at a terminal velocity comparable to that of a small meteorite or atmospheric re-entry vehicle. It will exhibit the red-orange thermal radiance typical of these objects as a result of atmospheric friction, and as such it is commonly mistaken for a meteorite or shooting star during its descent. It will then crash land, causing a minor localized seismic event and a sizable impact crater. In almost all cases, 1233 has landed a moderate distance away from the outer limits of a population center, usually a small to mid-sized town with a population not exceeding 30,000, between 7 and 30 kilometers. It will then climb out of the crater and travel towards the nearby town either via flight or on foot. Its route to the population center is not usually direct. It will frequently stop to engage in various activities seemingly at random. Examples of observed detour behaviors include inspecting various objects such as farm equipment, buildings, and plants, standing still for variable amounts of time, chasing small insects such as grasshoppers and butterflies, attempting to greet, converse with, or interrogate animals such as livestock and birds, pulling up root vegetables or picking fruit from bushes, trees, and pressing them forcefully into its closed visor in an apparent attempt to eat them, marching directly into bodies of water such as ponds and lakes, among others, normally not resulting in significant property damage. Upon reaching the town limits, SCP-1233 will engage in further activities which, due to its curiosity, appearance, extreme physical strength, and lack of understanding of human societal conventions, will generally result in civil unrest and destruction of public and private property. The following video transcript provides a typical example of 1233 interaction with the local populace. Date, August the 9th, 2009. If you had done September the 9th, then it would have been 999 and it would have been cool. It also would have been yesterday. Well, as of me recording, anyway. Security camera footage confiscated from Sam's Sweets, a bakery and cafe located in downtown Saratoga Springs in New York, USA. SCP-1233 opens front door and enters cafe. Behind the counter is an overweight bearded man identified as Bob Parsons, 32, co-owner of the establishment. Parsons raised his eyebrows upon 1233's entry. Holy crap, dude, it's like 90 degrees out there! I get being dedicated to your cosplay and all that, but goddamn! Approaches the register and briefly salutes. Greetings, little girl. I am Moon Champion, champion of the moon. Defender of space justice and destroyer of evil. I've come once again to your charming world to learn more of your strange culture and to seek aid for my people in their ongoing war against the moon monsters. You appear to possess a vast wealth of the fabled nutrients and moisture for which this world is known throughout the galaxy. Are you the president of this planet? Pause. Parsons laughs uproariously for approximately a minute, then reaches into a display case below the counter while wiping tears from his eyes. Holy fuck, man! That's the funniest shit I've ever heard in like, at least a year. What's up, Moon Champion? I'm Bob, and you get a free cookie for making me bust a gut so hard I thought I was gonna puke up my own spine. Here. Offers the cookie to 1233. The entity takes it from the shopkeeper. Ah! One of your human parakeets, I see. Yes, I, Moon Champion, accept this small bird on behalf of the moon, and solemnly pledge to use the energy it provides to advance the cause of righteousness. Rams the cookie into its unopened visor. The impact instantly destroys the confection and forcefully scatters crumbs in all directions. Delicious! I thank you, Lord President of Earth, for this generous gift, and may the light of justice forever shine upon your royal visage. The baker laughs again and begins eating a cookie of his own. Nah, it's cool, Moon Bro. I'll just clean that up later. Don't worry about it or anything. So there's monsters, huh, on the moon? And you fight them. Your understanding of the situation is flawless, my lord. Yes, the dreaded moon monsters have plagued and besieged my people for countless millennia. They are very terrible. Merely attempting to describe them to you would cause your human organs to shrivel in horror. And it is my sacred duty as Moon Champion to meet these nightmarish beasts in combat and lead the moon people in the defense of their imperiled homeland, the majestic and magnificent Moon Kingdom. Parsons continues eating his cookie and nods. Oh, so you're like one of these alien dudes, their king or something. No, I am not one of the moon people. I am Moon Champion. I will continue to serve the moon people and wage glorious war against their enemies until my debt to the Moon King is repaid. But the Moon Kingdom is a land of peace and enlightenment. The moon people have abandoned the pettiness of violence and bloodshed eons ago. They are ill-prepared for the sudden advent of such a formidable foe, and the conflict goes poorly despite the valiant efforts of me, Moon Champion. And so, I have come once more to Earth, our closest neighbor, to seek whatever assistance lies within your damp, meaty hearts. Throughout this monologue, 1233's right arm has risen into the air gradually until its hand is outstretched above its head. Parsons points at it. Do you, have a question? Yes, several. To start, where are these puppies you have capable of withstanding the vacuum of space without additional shielding? I would like to befriend one and name her Moon Pup, and take her with me on space adventures. Your arm, dude. 1233 pauses, then turns its head to look at its arm. Ah, yes, it has become buoyant, an aspect of your mighty balloons. Another common side effect of your Earth atmosphere, similar to electricity and swarms of locusts. Either that, or there are laser beasts within this quadrant. I have studied this Earth quite extensively. Its phenomena are disgusting and incredible. Now, Lord President Mayor of Earth, will you answer the Moon King's call and assist us in our desperate battle against the moon monsters? Time is of the essence. Time waits for no Moon Champion. I have asked it nicely. It did not listen. So, like, as you can see, Moon Dude, as president, I have, responsibilities. This, supply depot here is the only source of food for my people, and I've gotta, like, stay here. Otherwise, there'll be a famine, and you know how it is. But I've ordered the citizens to lend a helping hand to anyone who asks, and look, right outside, there's some. 1233 turns to look out the glass door where there are passerby visible. Yes, of course, you have been most voluptuous, my liege. Farewell, glorious and corpulent president. May you and your people remain moist and rubbery. Moon Champion blast off on wings of justice. 1233 salutes once more, turns about, and marches forward, crashing directly through a section of concrete wall less than 10 feet from the establishment entrance. I like this one. Other observed behaviors have included wandering into traffic, which is which due to its anomalous properties has resulted in lethal collisions, breaking through glass storefronts to handle or inspect wares on display, challenging a fire hydrant to single combat, which it then destroyed via punching, stealing and gathering unattended bicycles, forming a pile of hundreds in the center of a public park, stacking parked cars on top of one another, collecting as many dogs as possible and attempting to use them as currency to purchase more dogs, and more. 1233's exploits invariably result in the local authorities being summoned by the citizenry. However, attempts by police to impede, detain, or arrest 1233 are entirely ineffective and are ignored by the entity in the majority of cases. To date, 1233 has not caused overt and deliberate harm to any civilian, though casualties and fatalities have occurred as a result of its unpredictable behavior and physical properties. After spending a variable amount of time within a given municipality, 1233 will abruptly activate its jetpack and ascend directly upwards, reaching escape velocity and exiting Earth's atmosphere with greater speed than any non-anomalous vehicle on record. Shortest observed time thus far was approximately 30 minutes, longest 7 hours. Ground-based and orbital telescope observation of recent 1233 departures have shown that its general outband trajectory is consistent during each event. It exits Earth orbit and maintains velocity while adjusting course directly toward the moon. At its average speed of roughly 40,500 kilometers per hour, the entity enters lunar orbit within approximately 9 hours. It will overshoot slightly and adjust course, passing out of view and presumably either demanifesting somehow or landing on the far side of the moon. None of its claims regarding the moon have been successfully verified. Since 1233's initial appearance on February 6, 1986, Foundation research divisions have maintained constant surveillance of the moon in an attempt to acquire concrete proof of its statements. No evidence indicating the existence of a moon kingdom, moon people, moon monsters, or any other moon-based extranormal objects or entities mentioned by 1233 has ever been found. Terrestrial research personnel have maintained continual contact with Lunar Area 32 Provisional Research Station supervisors concerning all aspects of 1233 since its initial registry, hypothesizing that Area 32's powerful and comprehensive Sentinel array would be capable of confirming or refuting 1233's allegations with ease. Not only have lunar-based personnel consistently failed to uncover any indication that 1233's assertions are authentic in any way, but no anomaly or object matching 1233's description has ever been recorded by Sentinel's hundreds of detectors, despite the existence of a multitude of Earth-based telescopic video recordings which clearly show 1233 entering the inner bound of Sentinel's optimal sensor range and flying directly over Lunar Area 32. Lunar personnel were only made aware of the entity's existence in the SCP registry upon Terrestrial Command's request that they transmit all data concerning its first appearance to Earth for storage and analysis 3 hours following the entity's disappearance. No such data existed. No definitive explanation for this observational discrepancy has been found. Addendum 1. During 1233's most recent arrival event on October 5, 2017, 1233 addressed a male civilian in downtown Hereford, England, later identified by recovered security camera footage as Harry Godsoul 27. 1233 approached Godsoul and asked him if he would be willing to join the fight against the moon monsters. As opposed to each observed iteration of this interaction thus far, in which the civilian petitioned 1233 either disregards the question or answers in the negative, Godsoul sardonically replied, "Oh, absolutely, you fucking nutter! I'm ready to go right now, got my toothbrush and everything, let's fly, spaceman!" 1233 responded, "At last, a brave warrior hiding in plain sight amidst these pastoral and bucolic humans. Let us away, fair meat fellow, and earn the glory of heroes. This day, you brush your tooths among the stars. We fly!" The entity lurched forward and embraced Godsoul, then activated its jetpack. The resultant sonic boom shattering every glassware within a 300-meter radius as 1233 accelerated to a projected velocity of 25,000 kilometers per hour within approximately 4 seconds, ascending into low orbit with Godsoul in tow. Due to the unexpected timing of this event, observational satellites were unable to properly focus on 1233 during the early stages of its exit trajectory. As such, Godsoul's presence and status were unable to be visually confirmed. After the anesthetization of all Hereford citizens witnessing this event, Godsoul was officially declared missing, then pronounced dead 3 months later. The condition and whereabouts of his remains are currently unknown. I just want to say, for the record, that if this super strong space dude grabbed this man and accelerated to 25,000 kilometers per hour in 4 seconds. That man liquefied, if not exploded. If the sudden speed didn't take him down, the sonic boom did. You just, without your spacesuit and super jetpack and moonness, you don't survive shit like that. You just don't. What else has this author written? They have also written quite a few SCPs I probably won't see for years, and some stories about Joey Fucknuts. Okay then. An abandoned bakery. Is it the bakery from that last story? Cause another keter. Why is the bakery keter? Also, why was the Moon Man the Moon? Okay, keter is things they can't contain. So the Moon Man may not actually be dangerous, and it doesn't even sound like the Foundation's significantly worried about him. I think it's just the fact that there's nothing they can do to stop him. But to be honest, at this point, why haven't any of them actually just gone to where he is and asked him about it? If he's just walking around random towns telling people that I must bring people to help with the moon fight against the moon monsters on the moon because I, Moon Champion, am destined to stop them because I help the Moon King. Why didn't the Foundation just go ask him about it? They can talk to a weird dream book, but they can't go talk to the crazy, super powerful, and vulnerable Moon Man? Clearly they've interacted with him before since they tried to set him on fire and put him in lava at one point, but how come they didn't ask him about it? Anyway, time for the weirdly keter bakery. Ownership of the building housing 1234, designated Site 602, is currently held by a Foundation front company that probably is initialized as SCP still. All other former tenants of Site 602 have been evicted. The Foundation is to liaise with local government and business interests to prevent any attempts to purchase, redevelop, or condemn Site 602. Plainclothes security personnel are to monitor 1234 when inactive to prevent unauthorized access. Electronic monitoring equipment is to be installed in 1234 and throughout Site 602. Whenever monitoring equipment indicates that a 1234 event is imminent, all Foundation personnel are to evacuate Site 602. A Foundation front company, Southside Commissionery Products, I told you! SCP! Is to make a delivery to 1234 within 6 hours containing at least 50 kilograms each of all-purpose white flour and vegetable shortening, as well as 200 to 400 kilograms of any other available products approved as per document 746C. Following conclusion of an event, Foundation personnel may re-enter Site 602. All instances of one are to be identified and removed for study and disposal. All monitoring equipment is to be examined and replaced as necessary following confirmation that 1234 has been fully secured. Concurrent to re-entry, Southside Commissary Products shall canvass all purveyors of baked goods within a 5-kilometer radius of 1234 and confiscate any uncontained instances of one. In the event that a delivery is not made by the time 1234 enters active phase, mass distribution of amnestics to the civilian population is authorized, and procedure Queen of Hearts may be enacted as necessary at O5 discretion. SCP-1234 is the former premises of Schmidt's Swiss Pastries, a bakery and tea room that operated in Chicago, Illinois from 1947 to 2003. The interior remains fully furnished and possesses working electricity, hot and cold running water, and natural gas. The ovens and kitchen equipment remain fully functional, though appearing to be in severe state of disrepair due to age and neglect. All attempts to remove or disconnect the kitchen equipment or utilities have been unsuccessful. Under normal circumstances, 1234 is inert. On an irregular basis, ranging from an observed minimum of 2 days to an observed maximum of 17 months, 12 days, 1234 becomes active. Prior to becoming fully active, it exhibits a warm-up period lasting 12 to 36 hours. Phenomena indicating the onset of an event include heavy electromagnetic fluctuations within a 100-meter radius of Site 602, interference and malfunctioning of monitoring equipment, electrical blackouts or brownouts on the city block 602 is located on, lights and electrical devices within 1234 activating and deactivating spontaneously, unexplained disappearances of humans and animals with a 300-meter radius of 602, and redacted. It will become fully active within no more than 36 hours of the commencement of the warm-up phase. To date, active phase has always initiated between the hours of 2300 and 3:30 local time. Once fully active, 1234's windows become fully opaque, all doors and windows become completely impenetrable, and all monitoring equipment located within ceases to function. All attempts to enter during an active phase have failed, and no persons inside when an active phase commences have been found alive at its conclusion. An active phase has been documented to last from 4 to 10 hours, but will always conclude by 9 a.m. local time. Upon conclusion of active phase, the shelves, counters, tables, and display cases will have been stocked with approximately 200 to 500 freshly baked shortbread crust pies designated 1. All instances of 1 measure 22.8 centimeters in diameter and weigh approximately 0.75 kilograms each. Pies produced will make use of any biological ingredients provided to it, whether living or not at time of event, including fruits and vegetables, non-edible plants, insects, fish, poultry, red meat, and human beings. 1234 will not, however, make use of any ingredients that are spoiled, stale, or of unsatisfactory condition for use in baking. Instances of 1 will not be recycled into new instances when a new event begins. All instances of 1 are, at time of discovery, cooled to room temperature, contained in a disposable aluminum pie plate, and covered with a transparent plastic lid. Aside from the means by which they are produced, 1 bear no anomalous properties and may be eaten safely, provided that the ingredients used in its manufacture are safe to eat. On 17 occasions since observation began, instances of 1 have been found outside of 1234 following conclusion of active phase. On all such occasions, the pies were found on the shelves of supermarkets, convenience stores, and other food vendors within a 5-kilometer radius of 1234, and had been labeled with a UPC readable by the vendor's point-of-sale system. No determination has been made as to how the pies were transported from 1232 to the locations where they were found. If there is not a sufficient supply of ingredients available within 1234 when active phase commences, it will consume ingredients stored outside itself. Flour, shortening, and other biological matters relocated into 1234, beginning with the closest matter available and being attracted from an increasingly greater distance until the necessary amount of ingredients has been acquired. The means by which materials are acquired or transported into 1234 is unknown. Due to the population density of the area where it is located, no uncontained events have been allowed to occur since containment began. Foundation containment of SCP-1234 began in 2006, following several reports of dozens of persons and animals disappearing within the downtown Chicago area. Local police traced the disappearances to the neighborhood in which it is located. Upon noticing an unusual scent emanating from the abandoned storefront now identified 1234, police breached the front door and discovered approximately 7,300 instances of 1 within, many of which were several months old and had spoiled. When police attempts to determine the identity of the persons responsible reached a dead end, a police liaison contacted the Foundation, which assumed jurisdiction, and following an additional event which resulted in several more disappearances, placed 1234 under containment. Interviews with persons who worked at 1234 prior to 2003, and with the previous owners of Site 602, stated that the cause of its closing abruptly in April of that year was not known to them and that they had never observed any unusual or anomalous events occurring within the property prior to 2006. Okay, so I guess the reason it's keter is since they don't really understand how it works and why. And that brings us to an Atlas microcosm, which is Euclid. SCP-1235 currently occupies a laboratory desk in Examination Room 3, which has been converted into a containment cell. It should be kept under high-resolution video surveillance and any developments cataloged. Any expansion of the Austrian installations around 1235 or other macroscopic activity should be considered a breach attempt in progress and the area locked down immediately. In the event of a breach attempt by one or more international actors within 1235, all ventilation systems throughout Site-25 are to be shut down. During a breach event, 1235 should be considered a chemical, biological, and as of Containment Breach 3, radiological hazard. 1 is to be kept in secure storage when not in use. Okay. SCP-1235 is a large illustrated German language atlas of the world, Andries Allgemeiner Handatlas. The title page claims the atlas to have been printed by Velhagen and Klasing in 1903 as the third revision of the 1899 4th edition. The publisher has no record of this printing. Initial recovery indicated that pages handled normally and otherwise appeared non-anomalous. Under microscopic analysis, however, details such as city names, state names, city locations, and shading for discrete political entities fail to appear. Instead, at higher magnification, the atlas depicts a photorealistic satellite view of the magnified area. SCP-1 is a brass achromatic microscope outwardly consistent with equipment contemporary to 1235's stated data publication and stamped with the word Legend Adlerauge 1907? 1907? It's probably 1907. Yeah. Its internal workings, however, are highly complex and constitute an innovative method of magnification that relies on superposition of light via a microscopically perforated baffle. The construction of this baffle is beyond known manufacturing methods at the time of one's ostensible construction. In normal operation, one's maximum magnification is approximately 1,000 times. When viewing 1235, however, its instrumentation permits far greater increases in magnification. No upper limit has been established on one's magnification while viewing 1235. Under experimental conditions, it is proven capable of excellent clarity at over 3 million times magnification. 300 million times magnification. Analysis of 1235 using 1 indicates that 1235 represents a microcosm. Nations within are composed of apparently sentient beings at a scale of approximately 1 to 25,512,400. A typical microcosmic individual approximately 700 angstroms tall, or is 700 angstroms tall, and as far as can be ascertained, is composed of microcosmic particles on a similar scale to their non-anomalous counterparts. When 1235 is open to any given page, time begins to pass at a highly accelerated rate, approximately 1 to 300, in the world it portrays, beginning from the Atlas's supposed date of publication. Closing and reopening the page resets the world within to January the 3rd, 1903. The inhabitants of SCP-1235 seem to retain awareness through this reset, and have made several attempts to prevent further interference, culminating in Incident 1. Although microcosmic events chronologically prior to January 3rd, 1903 apparently preceded historically, significant diversions from historicity have been noted following extended observation. Shortly after recovery, 1235 was left open to pages 7 and 8, a full spread of Atlantic Ocean trading routes, for 7 days. During this time, geopolitical/geosocial disturbances were observed throughout the area covered by the map. It appears that, as soon as time begins to pass within 1235, its inhabitants become aware of macrocosmic reality, though it is uncertain to what extent they are able to resolve images from macrocosmic light, and thus accurately perceive the nature of the wider world. The rapid rise to hegemony in Europe and Africa of a federated Austro-Hungarian state, possibly predicated on the proposal for a United States of Austria, floated in macrocosmic history by R.O. Popovici, seems to be a common and inevitable outcome of iterations of the microcosmos viewed via pages 7 and 8. Experimentation on other pages has been suspended following Incident 1 and subsequent breach attempts. Several attempts have been made to contact contemporaneous Foundation assets in Britain and the United States through microstenography? Microdots measuring under 1 nanometers were dropped onto unpopulated areas of Canada and African wilderness under British control. Thus far, it is unclear whether these objects have been correctly interpreted. The hostile nature of the Central European powers makes close observation increasingly difficult. If communication with a microcosmic foundation is established, the fate of Site Blank in the western United States, not depicted on the map, is to be determined as a priority. Containment breach of a microcosmic version of SCP Blank constitutes a possible XK-class event, and it is not at all clear that this would be confined to the microcosmos. Until its status can be ascertained, attempts to neutralize 1235 via removal of light sources or destruction of part or all of the Atlas cannot be countenanced. Recovery Log 1235. Both SCP-1235 and 1235-1 were recovered from the Cambridge offices of Dr. Arnold Someone, a Bavarian-born historian and known cartographic enthusiast who had been previously used as a consultant by Sector 30 in matters relating to SCP-something-thousand. The whereabouts of the doctor are currently unknown, and he has since been reported missing. A hastily written note was found near the objects. Handwriting analysis indicates this to have been penned by Dr. Blank. The note, translated from German, reads, "Both quality and detail are incredible. It is uncertain whether this missive refers to 1235-1 or both. Incident 1. At some point in 2000-something, 1235's object class was upgraded to Euclid following unprecedented activity by microcosmic state actors in the third week of sustained observation. The Austrian Empire, supported by German and possibly Belgian and Romanian allies, launched a significant fleet of vessels into macrocosmic space, apparently powered by glucose harvested from dust falling onto 1235. Professor Blank was attacked by a number of these objects, which used several milligrams of high explosive to destroy his eardrum. It appears their intent was to enter his brain and cause life-threatening damage. Fortunately, Austrian forces appear to have underestimated the extent of this explosion in the confined space of Professor Blank's ear, disabling the portion of the fleet assigned to the attack. The remainder of the force, however, was successful in rapidly constructing makeshift clamps from surrounding material to prevent further manipulation of the pages of 1235. Examination Room 3 was designated a high-priority containment area and sealed off from the surrounding facility. The Central European Alliance has since reinforced their breachhead with pressurized habitat domes and artillery emplacements based around the clamps, which have been progressively strengthened. Several attempts have since been made at resetting pages 7 or 8 or closing 1235. In each case, this has resulted in an increasingly lethal counterattack by forces from the microcosmos, usually attempting to breach containment or attack researchers assigned to 1235. During Containment Breach Blank 3, it became evident that at least the Austrian state has developed atomic weaponry. Though these devices are generally less hazardous to personnel than previous attempts by various state actors to modify macrocosmic viruses, 1235 military assets have proved highly capable of targeting these weapons towards eyes, eardrums, and other sensory apparata, where they are able to do damage on a macroscopic scale. En masse, they have also been successful in breaching Chemturian suits. The American pellet in Examination Room 3 smoke alarm has also been seized, apparently in the belief that this mass will be fissionable via microcosmic explosives. The increasing sophistication and hostility of agents within 1235 is a matter of extreme concern to sector management. Reclassification to keter class is pending. There's been a whole lot of deadly stuff in this chunk of the 1200s. And next up for the last bit of this video would be the 4 paintings, the Epsilon Wave Tunnelfish, Adult Play Area, and the Mixed Up Pet Shop. Alright, 4 paintings are safe, and the digital scan looks pretty, what's the word I want? Whimsical. SCP-1236 1-4 are to be draped with black light-blocking fabric and kept in locked cases when not being studied. That immediately makes them sound less safe than they look. These cases may be stored in the same storage area. The lock securing each case will be individually keyed. Upon removal from the case, any of 1236 1-4 will be placed upon a floor-mounted easel, still draped in the black fabric. Only when the setup team is safely behind the paintings will the black fabric covers be pulled back to reveal the images painted upon the canvas. Description: SCP-1236 is a series of 4 paintings labeled 1-4. Each is 100 centimeters high by 75 centimeters wide and are framed with plain black wooden frames. They are painted in a style reminiscent of Keith Haring, though signed on the back with the name Searle? When viewed through a remote viewing device such as a monitor camera by way of a mirror, through a sheet of glass, or a recorded image such as video footage or still picture, the images feature a colored background with a differently colored figure in the center of the image. The figure is humanoid in shape with no physical features other than head, arm, leg, and torso outlines, as typical of Haring's work. When viewed directly, however, each image takes on a specific characteristic depending upon the viewer. The original image is not visible to the viewer, and instead an alternate image is seen. Following investigation into 4 staff suicides and multiple emotional/social problems reported to staff psychologists, non-disposable dudes are barred from directly viewing any of the paintings. 1. This canvas will show a full-length photo of a person who is the viewer's ideal of physical perfection based on sexual orientation. This is not an image of any real person, but is a representation of every desire and subconscious drive brought together in a single individual. This individual represents the ultimate in physical and sexual attractiveness to the viewer. This impression works down to the mental/personality level, with the viewer being able to describe in vivid detail aspects of the portrait's personality and character traits that will make them even more attractive to the viewer. 2. This canvas will show an image of the viewer themselves as a physically perfect specimen. They view themselves as the ultimate in attractiveness and desirability. Regardless of actual appearance and how extreme the change to become perfect, the viewer will still recognize themselves as the subject of the image. Again, this works to the personality level, and any personality flaws are removed and more desirable traits included. 3. This canvas features a portrait of the viewer's current or most recent significant other. The image, much like the previous two, projects an image of physical and mental perfection. The viewer sees their significant other rendered in the most physically and mentally appealing manner possible. Any actual imperfections are eliminated and the subject is seen in the absolutely best possible light. 4. This canvas reveals another portrait of the viewer, but in this case in the worst possible light. Each imperfection is magnified and character flaws are obvious and horrendous. Upon seeing this image, the viewer is given the impression that they are a horribly repulsive person and there is no way any person could ever be attracted to them. Addendum A. All 4 of the paintings were found in August, redacted in an art gallery. Is this another one of the "Are we cool yet" things? In an art gallery in New York City. When interviewed, the owner of the gallery could not recall where he had acquired them, but had 6 paintings in the series. He only displayed them for a part of a day, reported that they made people very uncomfortable. The owner, who wears glasses due to severe myopia, reported taking the paintings off display, but not before selling 2 of them to an unnamed buyer for several $1,000s each. The remaining paintings were transferred to the Foundation, but no gallery records exist to show who may have purchased the other 2 paintings in the series. The owner of the gallery reported having taken the information of the individual who purchased the paintings, but that the information had somehow been deleted from his database, along with all other information related to the 6 paintings. Is it them? It sounds like it would be them, but apparently it's not. I think it's probably them. The Epsilon Wave. Another keter one. 1237 as represented on an EEG readout. Okay. Due to its pandemic and incorporeal nature, 1237 cannot be contained in a traditional sense. Containment at this time shall be focused on information management and on identification and containment of 1 positive individuals. Any non-Foundation scientific research which could lead to discovery of 1237 is to be suppressed by any means necessary. Conscription of researchers involved in such studies as Foundation personnel or disposable dudes is authorized. The Foundation is to sponsor efforts wherever and whenever possible to promote widespread DNA testing of civilians for the purpose of identifying 1 positives, including but not limited to mandatory testings of sex offenders and other convicted offenders, DNA testing as prerequisites for employment or insurance eligibility, DNA fingerprinting as a means of identification, universal prenatal screenings, and home DNA testing kits, ostensibly for the purpose of determining a person's ancestry. All Foundation personnel, and any civilian who is allowed to know of the Foundation's existence must be tested immediately. Information is to be disseminated in the medical community to the effect that an SCP-1237-1 positive result and a prenatal screening is evidence of a deformative condition with low viability and extreme health risk to the mother, and doctors are advised to recommend that such pregnancies be terminated. If a known 1 positive pregnancy is not voluntarily aborted, induction of involuntary abortion is authorized. The Foundation is to sponsor any and all organizations or charities providing prenatal screening and abortion services, whether legal or not, in developing countries where these services do not exist. If these efforts are unsuccessful, sponsorship of organizations participating in campaigns of involuntary sterilization, ethnic cleansing, or genocide is authorized against populations with statistically high rates of 1. I gotta say, just like as a pause, if I want to put ads on this video, it's gonna be rough getting YouTube to go along with that. Because this, man, some of the things that have been happening in this episode, holy crap. Anyway. Any person presenting at hospital or police, or otherwise identified as having experienced a 12... I'm sorry that I keep yawning, I only got 4 hours of sleep. Works. For experience a 1237 event is to be detained for study and testing. I had to find my place, I apologize. If the individual is SCP-1237-1 negative, they are to be debriefed, administered a Class B amnestic, and then released. Any person found to be positive or to have caused an incident is to be detained immediately for study and debriefing. After debriefing, they are to be administered a Class Omega amnestic and detained indefinitely. Positives are to be regularly dosed with Class C amnestics to prevent any development of new memories regarding the existence of the Foundation or any staff handling them. Benzodiazepines to minimize slow-wave sleep, and blank to prevent REM sleep, and during sleep shall be monitored at all times by EEG. In the event that any positive enters a 1237 state during observation, they are to be terminated immediately. If any 1237-1L is identified by the Foundation, authorization is granted to employ them once and only once to attempt to neutralize a Keter-class SCP objects at the discretion of O5. After said attempt, whether successful or not, subject is to be terminated immediately. If any high-profile persons or public places are affected by a 1237 event, the Foundation is authorized to take whatever steps necessary to prevent public knowledge of this change, up to and including termination and complete destruction of the person or place so affected. Description: SCP-1237 is a state of electrical activity in the human brain, a brainwave in common terminology, observed in certain individuals during periods of extremely deep sleep. This state, informally dubbed Level 5 sleep or Epsilon Wave sleep, is profoundly difficult to awaken the subject from. Prior to adoption of current containment protocols, experiments with loud noise, bright lights, chemical injections, electrical stimulation, oxygen deprivation, physical injury and mutilation, and redacted, all failed to arouse the subject. The ability to exhibit 1237 is controlled by a gene designated 1. 1 is present in approximately 0.blank% of the total world population. However, this number is as high as 1.blank% amongst blank 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 and blank ethnic groups. Blank% of 1 positives experience at least one 1237 event in their lives. Blank% experience 2 or more. The majority of 1237 events occur when the subject is in their late teens to early 30s. Whereas 1 negative individuals do not exhibit REM activity during the deepest stages of sleep, 1 positives do. Dreams experienced during a 1237 event are not of significantly different nature than dreams experienced by negatives. They may involve the dreamer participating in routine daily activities, find them in impossible or illogical situations where people they may or may not know behave uncharacteristically, or find them in scenarios most persons would find terrifying. As with ordinary dreams, the subject has no apparent control over the setting or events of the dream or their actions therein. When dreaming during an SCP-1237 state, however, the brainwaves responsible for REM activity and 1237 activity interact to produce a reality-altering effect. After a 1237 event occurs, any physical and mental changes that occur to the subject in the dream will occur to their waking form as well. If the dream involves persons or places that the subject has personally interacted with or visited, those persons and places will be altered as well in accordance with the nature of the dream. Imaginary persons or places not personally known by the subject are not affected. Transformation is instantaneous in all cases that have been observed. In general, memories of people not involved in the dream are unaffected. People encountering persons affected by a 1237 event will believe that the changes are correct and that the person has always been that way. However, they will have memories that this is not the case. Attempts to reconcile this among witnesses to a 1237 event tend to result in chronic uneasiness, paranoia, and redacted. Documented effects of 1237 events have included loss of limbs and organs, or spontaneous regeneration of limbs and organs previously lost, complete and total changes in physical appearance, gender, personality, memories, age, and species, acquisition of superhuman abilities, including the ability to fly, lift extremely heavy objects, survive without oxygen, or see through solid objects. Significant changes in the architecture and floor plan of buildings, of the layout of city streets, or the appearance, characteristics, or names of landmarks. Changes in the outcome of historical events the subject was involved in. Individuals returning to life several years after dying. The spontaneous transformation of national governments from one form to another, e.g., from a republic to a constitutional monarchy, or from a democratic confederation to an autocratic dictatorship. Redacted, redacted. A very small percentage of 1 positives believed to be in the single digits worldwide, designated 1L, are capable of lucid dreaming, the ability to control the nature of their dreams, including those occurring in 1237 events. To date, only one SCP-1237-1L has been identified by the Foundation. Experiment log T98816-OC108/682. Of course it's 682, why wouldn't it be 682? For details pertaining to its disposition. I'm going to open that in a new tab. Addendum, note from senior researcher someone. It is of the utmost importance that all agents assigned to 1237 Containment understand exactly how dangerous this phenomenon can potentially become. We have no idea how much of our world has been changed by these dreamers in the past. A single positive having a single dream has the potential to change the world for the worst. What if a mortician watches a scary movie and then falls asleep and dreams their town is part of a zombie apocalypse? What if a globetrotter dreams about the end of the world? What if someone aware of our existence dreams of a world where there's no such thing as the Foundation? We're talking CK, maybe even XK level events here. As it stands right now, we don't even know how many of these people are out there that we haven't found. For this reason, I want to stress that any means necessary to implement universal DNA testing and to remove these people from the gene pool is authorized, and that there's absolutely no margin of error for mercy. When you became part of this organization, you understood that sometimes we have to do horrible things in the name of the greater good, things that make it hard to sleep at night. I must ask you to do those horrible things, and to continue doing those horrible things for as long as it takes to neutralize this threat. Because it only takes one positive who can sleep at night to create a world where the rest of us will never wake up again. Alright, so what did y'all do to the lizard? What SCP was that? 1237? Okay. Termination test record. A delicate containment breach was induced, which an SCP-1237-1L specimen was permitted to observe from a safe distance. 13 security personnel were killed before containment was re-established. Subject was dosed with blank to encourage REM sleep and onset of 1237, and instructed to dream that SCP-682 was a small house cat with no special abilities, and that the security team had been able to destroy it easily. 7 seconds after onset of 1237, event subject began to seize violently. Subject was declared dead after 32 seconds. Autopsy discovered the subject's body covered with scratch and bite marks and infected with bubonic plague, toxoplasmosis, and subacute regional lymphadentis cat scratch fever. The bodies of the deceased security personnel displayed similar characteristics. A small house cat was found in 682's containment chamber, cleaning blood off its coat. Said cat regenerated into 682 within 3 hours. Okay. Interesting. Tunnelfish. Another keter one. Well, again, keter if they can't contain it. It might just be a fish. Literally just a fish. Any wild colonies of SCP-1238 are to be destroyed as soon as possible, until such a time as it can be reduced to and maintained at pre-1850 population levels. The Foundation shall liaise with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, and with other oceanographic research institutes as necessary to track the movements and attempt to locate entrances to the tunnels. Any tunnel discovered should have its entrance sealed by any means necessary that will not result in seismic instability until such a time as means of completely filling in existing tunnels or rendering them structurally stable is developed. The Foundation is to monitor seismic activity within the Gold Zone at all times for indications of new tunnel construction or evidence that an Event 638-34 is imminent. Whenever possible, persons living above tunnels should be relocated. No other SCP objects except those the nature of which renders them immovable are to be contained within the Gold Zone. No mission-critical Foundation personnel to travel, remain, or operate within the Gold Zone except as necessary to monitor 1238 or other SCP objects within the area. No member of the O5 Council is to enter the Gold Zone at any time. Personnel whose hometown is located within the Gold Zone or who have immediate family members residing within the Gold Zone are disqualified from participating in SCP-1238 containment. In the event that Event 638-34 is determined to be imminent, it used to say all Foundation personnel are to attempt to evacuate the Gold Zone immediately. Now it says Foundation personnel within the Gold Zone are to effect immediate evacuation of high-ranking government officials, military personnel, and culturally significant individuals as per Plan Contra IK-638. And to secure the retrieval and removal of the listed artifacts of cultural or historical value before attempting to evacuate themselves. Mobile Research Unit 638 is to remain on site within the Gold Zone and transmit observations and data to Overwatch Command until such time as environmental conditions render communication impossible. Following Event 638-34, the Foundation is to liaise with national governments and employ its resources for humanitarian purposes as necessary to prevent escalation to an IK-class collapse of global civilization event. It's a fish! Description: 1238 is a species of deep-sea fish with no current taxonomic classification, morphologically similar to the Antarctic toothfish. Disostechis mawsoni. 1238 resides principally in deep waters in the northern Pacific Ocean, along the northwestern American and western Canadian coastlines. Adult specimens measure on average 1.4 meters in length and weigh 100 to 110 kilograms. It is not suitable for human consumption due to the large concentrations of toxic minerals consumed by the fish, and are not currently fished for in any significant quantity or exploited by human industry for any significant purpose. During most of its life cycle, 1238 specimens subsist primarily on a diet of smaller fish and other small aquatic animals. During spawning season, which lasts from approximately early April to mid-July each year, the secondary digestive tract of sexually mature 1238 specimens becomes active, allowing the fish to digest and metabolize inorganic materials and metals, particularly deposits of metamorphic rock located below a region of the northwestern United States and southwestern Canada, designated the Gold Zone. During spawning season, 1238 will gather en masse at specific sites along the ocean floor and begin a process of tunneling under and through the continental shelf, widening and expanding the tunnel as a result of their consuming the existing rock. During spawning season, an adult 1238 fish can consume and metabolize approximately 120% of its body mass and minerals within a 24-hour period. It produces little waste matter during this stage. Volume of waste excreted is approximately 10% of that consumed. Tunnels produced by SCP-1238 in this manner become the spawning grounds in which 1238 eggs are laid and fertilized. A female fish is capable of laying up to 40,000 eggs within a season, of which approximately 25 to 35% will survive to adulthood under current conditions. The hatchlings reach sexual maturity after approximately 10 years and have been documented to live approximately 35 years in the wild. The specimens almost always return to the tunnel in which they were born in order to spawn, with tens of thousands of individual specimens involved in digging a single tunnel. It will continue to expand on a specific tunnel, occasionally forming branching tunnels, until natural phenomena cause the tunnel to collapse. Population growth results in excessive competition for resources, or the food supply becomes inadequate. Individual tunnels have been documented to extend as far as blank 1,000 kilometers from the starting point and as deep as blank kilometers below surface level. Alright, Event 638, Mu-34 background and threat analysis. Level 4 clearance required. Okay, so Memo to O5 Council to O5 1, 7, 9, and 13 and the Central Ethics Committee. From the Research Committee from 1238. The subject is the threat analysis. Prior to the late 19th century, the environmental impact of 1238 was largely self-contained. The widespread commercial exploitation of the northern Pacific since then has resulted in the depopulation or extinction of several cetaceans and other species that previously preyed on 1238, and as a result, its population has increased exponentially since 1850 and continues to do so to this day. In particular, tunnel construction has increased dramatically as a result of this overpopulation. Whereas we believe that approximately 200 kilometers worth of tunnels existed in 1850, tunneling has now accelerated far beyond the rate at which natural geologic events cause tunnel collapse. We currently estimate that there are approximately at least 10,000 kilometers of tunnels in existence, extending up to blank 100 kilometers inland from the Pacific coast, spread throughout a region of the northwestern US and southern Canada designated the Gold Zone. Damage to these tunnels has resulted in an increasing number of sinkholes and other anomalous phenomena on the surface, including the allegedly bottomless sinkhole referred to as Mel's Hole. Computer modeling indicates that the collapse of one of the larger tunnels, or a major earthquake occurring along the blank fault lines, could potentially cause a chain reaction designated Event 638 Mu-34, ultimately resulting in the complete collapse of the tunnel network, the partial collapse of the continental shelf, and the permanent flooding of a large area of the Gold Zone by the Pacific Ocean to depths of up to something 100 meters. If SCP-1238 tunneling continues to accelerate at current rates, our models predict a high probability of Mu-34 occurring no later than 2000-something. Even if all of the tunneling were to cease immediately, a high probability remains of the event happening within the next something 100 years. With our current methods of seismic analysis, we believe the Foundation would be able to predict the onset no sooner than 60 minutes prior to the beginning of the tunnel collapse, with continental shelf collapse occurring over the next 12 hours and complete flooding following over the next several weeks. Our models predict that few people residing within the Gold Zone, if any, would be able to evacuate upon the onset of the event. Were the event to occur tomorrow, we would predict approximately blank million human casualties within 24 hours and the destruction of tens of thousands of square kilometers of land, the complete destruction of the cities of Boise, Olympia, Portland, Sacramento, Salem, San Francisco, Seattle, Spokane, Vancouver, and Victoria among others, and an unquantifiably large amount of property damage. The immediate results of the event are likely to cause a mass extinction of land and aquatic flora and fauna within and near the Gold Zone, including SCP-1238 itself, due to the destruction of habitats, and will produce lingering effects for decades due to the introduction of pollution in the form of chemical and nuclear waste, debris from man-made artifacts, and large quantities of human and animal remains into the Pacific Ocean. As much of the Gold Zone is currently employed as farmland, a significant percentage of the United States food supply is likely to be impacted. We predict massive spikes in the price of food, oil, consumer goods, and other commodities as a result. Hinterlands neighboring the flooded regions of the Gold Zone are likely to suffer immediate economic devastation as a result of being cut off from the outside world. Rapid onset of famine and communicable disease is suspected as a result. We predict a global adjustment in sea level of approximately blank meters as a result of the water displaced into the Gold Zone and major tsunami activity throughout the Pacific Rim. This change will produce a significant impact on the international maritime commerce and fishing, and may possibly contribute to a global economic or political crisis due to the sudden inaccessibility of vital resources. Global telecommunications are likely to be severely impacted due to the loss of telecommunication infrastructure within the Gold Zone, and a massive spike in civilian communications via phone, email, social networking, etc. during and in the immediate aftermath of the event. It is therefore our opinion at this time that if and when the event occurs, the Foundation must devote as much of its resources as possible to continuity of operations and maintaining global and economic security. The unrest and devastation likely as a result has the potential to escalate to an IK-class event, which will severely compromise the Foundation's ability to keep other SCPs under containment and protect the human race from their influence. In the meantime, mass eradication of 1238 populations will slow the acceleration of new tunneling, buying the Foundation time to develop a more permanent means of staving off that which is currently inevitable. We additionally suggest that our media resources foster the evolution of a sustainable culture within the Gold Zone in order to encourage population decentralization, the movement of vital technological/industrial/military resources away from the Gold Zone, and allow populations of 1238's natural predators to rebound. Postscript. Per our previous discussions with the Central Ethics Committee, 058 has been deliberately excluded from this memo and will not be made aware of the event at this time. The circumstances of 05's early life and education and the current residence of his extended family within the Gold Zone may present a conflict of interest if 05 is made aware of the threat at this time. Okay. I know that accent was all over the place, but it's over now. Adult play area. You mean like Dave and Buster's, or is this going to be really weird? Well, it says it's safe. Site blank has been established around 1239-2. When not in use for testing, 1 and removable instances of 3 are to be kept outside of 2 in dedicated storage lockers to prevent accidental activation. 2 should be soundproofed with all windows obscured from the outside. Description: SCP-1239 consists of 3 components. 1. A lamp with a standard low-voltage power cable containing artificial flora with 4 flower-like light bulbs. The words, "Hey kids!" are engraved on the lid. 2. A residence somewhere. 3. A specific set of objects present within that residence at the time of recovery. The anomalous effects of 1239 manifest if 1 is powered and viewed by a post-pubescent human subject, while both are within 2. Following this, the subject will experience a series of conditional hallucinations until exiting 2, as follows. Subjects will perceive samples of 3 to be different objects. This is apparently consistent between objects, as all subjects tested have perceived respective 1239 samples in the same way. For an extensive list of 1239 samples and their respective hallucinated appearances, refer to Document B, which is here. Objects present within 2 and other than 3 will be perceived normally by affected subjects. Subjects will perceive any prepubescent or pubescent individuals within 2 as highly amiable, despite the subject's prior dispositions and relationship with children, and will express a desire to engage in play activities. Subjects will perceive all expressions of discomfort, pain, or displeasure produced by prepubescent and pubescent individuals within 2 as expressions of pleasure or enjoyment. Upon exiting 1239, the hallucinatory symptoms caused by exposure will cease and are removed retroactively, i.e. the subject will remember observing 3 samples as they would normally appear, and will be unable to recall experiencing the hallucinations previously caused by it. Behavior caused by 1239, however, will be recalled with an expected degree of detail. As a result of this, the subjects are able to recall actions made under the influence of 1239, but are unable to recall the motivation for said actions. Summarized recovery log. SCP-1239 was first identified shortly after an incident occurring in 2 on blank something, in which the respective parents of 10 children who had agreed to meet as a part of a social event were exposed to 1. The affected individuals, of which there were 6, were interviewed and dealt with as per recovery protocol 8. A cover story regarding a toxic gas leak was later circulated, and the remains of the children incinerated after analysis. Oh. Testing regarding 1239 has determined that no direct or compulsive behavioral alterations result from exposure to 1. Okay? Excerpt from document B. 12. A kettle composed of plastic and stainless steel, hallucinated to be a polystyrene sword. A large oven, a cardboard box with the word Fort written on it in felt-tip pen, and an apparatus with the words Fun Controls written above it, in which it corresponds to the dials. The text representing the maximum temperature, 200 degrees Celsius. The temperature dial can be set to has been replaced with the word Maximum Fun, and the words Fun button have been printed above the button activating the device. A Glock 19, a toy handgun which produces a low-energy red laser upon the trigger being pulled. The object possesses a mechanism to load cartridges normally. It used to say 17, but now says 14 batteries in multiple sizes. Multiple biscuits, sugar, sweets, and other confections primarily colored purple, black, and pink. 5 pots and pans of varying sizes, chiefly composed of stainless steel. 5 water balloons of varying sizes and color, each filled with the near maximum amount of water they can support. Okay, so hitting people with a kettle because you think it's a foam sword, getting in an oven and turning it on because you think it's a fun fort, shooting people because you think it's a toy gun, eating batteries because they look like cookies, and throwing pots and pans at each other because you think they're water balloons. Sure. And that brings us to the mixed up pet shop. Now when you say mixed up pet shop, is there going to be animals that have wrong body parts? It's Euclid. News media is to be monitored for mentions of anomalous pets. Any such mention is to be investigated by MTF Omega-3 zookeepers. If an instance of 1240C is found, then amnestics and cover stories are to be used as necessary, and the instance is to be sent to site blank. The internet is to be regularly searched for SCP-1240A. Any instance of A found is to be scrubbed by Foundation computer experts, and Omega-3 is to be sent to the originators of the instance to investigate and administer amnestics. Instances of C are housed in the anomalous animal containment wing at site somewhere. Testing of those instances may be done with permission from Dr. Somebody. Personnel wishing for new instances may submit a written request to that doctor. If she approves, she will procure the new instance herself. Description: SCP-1240A is the mailing address redacted. The street blank does not exist in blank, and an extensive search of area code there has resulted in no leads. Any letter or package sent through the post to A vanishes mid-route. Sending a letter or package to the adjacent house number is blank or blank on the same street results in the letter or package being returned to sender. B is a business, or organization or entity associated with A, which is simply known as Mail Order Pet Shop. Sending a letter with a return address to B at A, with the letter mentioning a specific type of animal, will result in an instance of C being delivered 5 to 7 business days later to the return address. The letter does not need to actually place an order for an animal. Simply mentioning an animal in any context will provoke a delivery of C. Letters not mentioning a specific type of animal will produce no response. All requests for a catalog of available animals have been ignored. Payment is not needed in order to receive the instance of C. All checks which have been sent with requests for animals have gone uncashed. C will appear directly at the front entrance to the return address sometime during daylight hours at a moment when no one is directly observing the front entrance. No delivery person or delivery vehicle has ever been observed. If the front entrance is monitored by cameras, the cameras will momentarily fail, and C will appear during that moment. C is an animal, which will always be delivered within a living environment or a means of transporting the animal. C will never be the type of animal mentioned in the letter which provoked its delivery, but it always imitates some of the behaviors of the mentioned animal. Where the physiology of the animal would prevent the behavior from being imitated, the imitation is achieved through anomalous means. What enables the anomalous behavior is unknown, since all instances of C have gross, fine, and cellular anatomy identical to non-anomalous members of the same species, as well as identical biochemistry and DNA. Examples of C: animal mentioned, guinea pig; animal received, humpback anglerfish. 12 was received in a wire cage stocked with cedar sawdust, pellet feed, and a water bottle. 12 swims through the air via unknown means at the same height as an adult guinea pig holds its body off the ground, and can move over any obstacle a normal adult guinea pig could. It is constantly coated in a film of salt water which never dries out. It has no difficulty eating vegetable matter, even though its teeth are completely unsuited for the task, and has survived for over a year on a diet of vegetables, even though anglerfish are obligate carnivores. Okay, animal mentioned, deep sea anglerfish. Animal received, domestic rat. C-13 was received in a fish tank filled with salt water. It was dead on arrival. Necropsy revealed that, although the specimen's lungs were full of salt water, the cause of death was not drowning, but decompression sickness. C-21, animal mentioned, breeding pair of piranha. Received, breeding pair of golden hamsters. They received a fish tank full of fresh water. They breathe underwater and drown when they attempt to breathe air. They swim by stroking their paws through the water, though the speed and agility with which they swim is much greater than should be possible by that means of locomotion. They eat flesh and predate on fish like piranha, but store food in their cheeks like normal hamsters. After several months in Foundation possession, they mated in the manner of normal hamsters. The female grew gravid over time like a normal hamster, but engaged in no nesting behavior. After giving birth, it paid no attention to its infants, similar to a female piranha laying eggs. The infants were curled into tight little balls and grew in size as time went by without receiving any milk from the mother. When they reached the age that normal hamster weaned, they uncurled and began swimming and eating like their parents. Okay. Corn snake was mentioned. They received a worker ant. C-30 was received in a terrarium which was fitted out in a manner typical for one used to house a corn snake. It moves like a normal ant and will climb over vertical and upside down surfaces, unlike a corn snake. It seems to have the same senses and sensory range as a corn snake, but still waves its antenna when sensing its surroundings. It has shown no anomalous equivalent to the constricting behavior of corn snakes. When presented with a dead mouse, it will run at the mouse with a speed much greater than an ant should be able to achieve, and when it reaches the mouse, its mouth, but not mandibles or the rest of its head, swells to an enormous size and partially engulfs the mouse. It then engages in a gulping behavior which moves the mouse further into its mouth. After the mouse is fully engulfed in the mouth, it is slowly moved to the thorax, and then from the thorax to the metasoma, abdomen, with its body elastically stretching and shrinking to accommodate. When the mouse is fully in the metasoma, 30 will attempt to move to a resting place. However, since its thorax and legs will be lifted off the ground due to its distended metasoma, its legs fruitlessly wave around in the air. An hour later, the waving of his legs will slow down and then stop, which is presumed to be 30 going to a dormant state. As time passes, the bulk within the metasoma shrinks. It is unknown where the mass goes. When the mouse has been digested down to hair and claws, the anus will momentarily swell and the remains will be expelled, at which point 30 will be able to move again. Weird. It wasn't as terrifying as some of the other things I just read, but definitely weird. And that does it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. And the next one we're going to be starting with Living with Werewolves and making our way to HMS Tiresias, I think? That looks like it's 20. So, if you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well, so that you're notified of future uploads. Hopefully I can have this out when I want it to. It should still be going up on Friday. I just don't know how long editing it is going to take, because I wasn't actually able to do any recording until much later than I wanted to. So, I'll see y'all in the next one. Later!